This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
3 9/10 to play. Nembhard will get it in. Here comes a three and a foul! A foul! A foul! As Haliburton, floating out of bounds in front of the Milwaukee bench, hits a three and draws a foul.
Haliburton's got the ball. Haliburton rises up. And he hits it. And there's the whistle. Oh, my goodness. Tyrese Haliburton hits a three and is fouled.
You are bumming off the screen here and right in the grill of Giannis and right in front of Damian Lillard, who's on the bench right now with a chance for a 4-point play. You don't understand the degree of difficulty.
Foul shot clean. Let's see if Milwaukee can go the length. They've got 3 4/10 seconds. They need a field goal. Antetokounmpo to inbound. He got it to Trent. Back to Antetokounmpo. Full speed ahead. He pulls up. He lets it go.
And it's short.
And the Pacers win it 115 to 114.
Usually I hate running that play because I feel like I never get the ball.
An amazing sequence of events. What a shot.
There's definitely a lot of Reggie moments in this building, and I'm just trying to create some of my own. But definitely cool that he was here in the building for that.
This is what basketball in the state of Indiana is. It's selfless and it's determined.
Outstanding work, Mark Dyke did. Did you get in here about 3:45 this morning? Start putting that thing together, 3:40?
I'm an old pro. I can do this in 30 minutes.
I like that. Good morning, everyone. Welcome into a winning Wednesday here on 93.5, 107.5. The Fan. Big night for the Indiana Pacers last night. And about last night, Kevin, it was a tight game throughout. You didn't know which way it was going to go. And finally, in the second half, Tyrese Haliburton started to pick things up. I thought he was pretty quiet in the first half, and they got everything done at the end. They got it done.
Mark, great work on that. Fittingly, it's March, folks. I mean, what a shot. I mean, I thought Reggie Miller described it really, really well. I mean, the difficulty of that shot over Giannis, the play itself. Shout out to Jenny Busick, the Pacers assistant coach. I know Rick Carlisle has talked with us on these airwaves about the diagram of that play. I think it's a play that, honestly, you've seen a little bit more NBA teams kind of go to, even when they're inbounding balls late, just to try and create a situation where they can get it to some foul shooters that are open there. Unbelievable execution. And I really thought Haliburton had one of his quieter nights in quite some time until the end, and really saved Andrew Nembhard there with what he did from a heroic standpoint in the final seconds.
So after Haliburton made that shot, I went and found his shirt, KB, on see if you can read the back.
I'll make it. Jimmy Chitwood.
I love it.
I'll make it.
I love it. I love it.
There's a little salt for Shaq after the game, talking about it was a Hoosiers play. Well, it worked. And in the movie Hoosiers, it worked as well. So
first take, right?
Yeah, there you go. So that was a huge moment for the Pacers. Obviously, Tyrese Haliburton. And, the funny thing about sports is you can have, like, these bad moments. I thought Nembhard missing back-to-back threes, missing the free throw. I'm like, oh, man, like, we're going to be on the radio tomorrow talking about this guy. And, not to reopen it, but you hit the shot and everyone's like, oh, you know what? Never mind. So that was a fun moment and really a huge win. Seriously. I mean, beyond the shot plus the moment plus the standings matter so much.
Yeah, it really does. And Milwaukee helped Indiana out over the past week by not playing all that well while Indiana was going through some tough times as well. So everything is there to be played for as far as getting home court advantage over the next couple of weeks in the NBA, trying to secure that 4th seed. A lot of fun last night. And as you said, just getting it done. Winning a race is everything, right? As kind of all the other things we could talk about throughout the day. But Pascal Siakam, if you want to talk about somebody, Kevin, he was terrific all night last night.
Yeah, I thought the start of the fourth quarter, him and Turner really good there. I thought Matherin and McConnell off the bench. The bench really had been poor, and I get that you had to shuffle some things around without Haliburton. I thought they were key. I mean, what a great game. I mean, just the back and forth nature to it. 21, I think, was the final number in terms of lead changes. I mean, it felt like kind of that playoff type of atmosphere. So I think James is kind of getting at this. When you have the shot meet the moment, it's 82 nights out of the year. That shot on a Tuesday against the Wizards is a hell of a shot, obviously. but to do it in the biggest regular season game of the year when he had missed 3 straight games. If you want to get technical on the shot, guys, he's going to his left. What did he just miss 3 games with? A left hip. I mean, like that, and to do it over Giannis, all of those things. I mean, if you look, and obviously they reviewed it for seemingly 7 years. I mean, the amount of space that he had to work with, just incredible. One of those moments, and again, you almost slot regular season moments different from playoff moments. Obviously, the Andrew Nembhard shot, Game 3 against the Knicks last year, kind of stands alone. But if you want to look at a regular season moment, Jonathan Taylor had that moment against the Patriots back a couple years ago inside of Lucas Oil Stadium when he took off on that big run late in the season. That moment, from a regular season standpoint, one of the cooler ones you'll ever experience inside of that building.
It was fun. And what I love about it is Tyrese, forever petty. Damian Lillard, Dame time. After he makes the shot, they showed a close-up of him celebrating after he, got mauled by his teammates. And he's like tapping his wrist like the watch doesn't work. And I'm like, and I know that the people who call him a front runner are going to hate that. But the bottom line is when you win, when you make plays like that, you can talk trash. And he backed it up last night.
He did a few of those in Vegas last year during the in-season tournament semifinal, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if you're a competitor, you just have to be who you are. Like, if you're a guy that doesn't talk, that's fine. But if you are a guy that talks or shows emotion like Haliburton, you don't change that because you got a few critics out there hating on you. I was thinking about myself, seriously. What does Tim Hardaway Sr. think about this shot? Yes, the hate that he has for Haliburton. I was just thinking, I want a camera on you. Me. I go straight to who is the biggest hater that I can tell basically F you in the moment.
To be selfish for a second, I don't love the fact that we don't talk to Rick Carlisle for another 6 days.
Man.
Because you want to ask him about that play.
Yeah.
And again, he has spoken about this, and he did it post-game last night. But Jenny Busek, this goes back to her days in the WNBA. She has shared this story before. Caitlin Cooper had an outstanding podcast with her back last offseason. And sit down with Sue Bird and, describing kind of end-of-game situations and how can you do something differently. And if you watch the play last night, it certainly causes confusion for the Bucks. They had 2 guys. They actually left Haliburton open. Giannis was playing more of a center fielder there. They had 2 guys, I think maybe go with Neesmith. And the Pacers ran this play several times last season. Eastern Conference Finals is the most memorable one. They ran against Portland and Brooklyn last year as well. And at the very least, it causes confusion. And I think at the end of the game, that's what you're trying to do of, okay, can we create a chaotic situation for the defense to where now they misidentify one of our guys, and lo and behold, it happened to be Haliburton last night. So shout out to her. I know Rick said post-game last night, Mike Weiner, one of their top assistants, has had some tweaks to that play, but just incredible execution and quite the moment for Tyrese Haliburton with Reggie Miller courtside.
It's a pick play. It's a pick play.
Yeah.
It's a very NFL.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a rub.
Yeah.
It's a very NFL crossing route 3rd and 6.
Yep.
Colts would have been flagged for that last night.
Don't have Alec Pierce, flag for offensive pass interference.
It's good stuff. I love Jenny Busek, and it's been fun watching her. I was doing WNBA play-by-play when she was actually a player for the brief time that she was in the WNBA, and remember her with the Cleveland Rockers back in the day. And it's just fun to watch on the sidelines all season long, and since I've been back and going to the games for the last several months. I just love the fact that when she speaks, she clearly has the attention of everybody she's speaking to, and it's fun to watch her in pregame drills going over stuff with the guys. They are clearly invested in her and what she has to say. I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I remember when I was on the beat, she'd have her daughter, Riley, around, and that was really cool as well. And, if you know the game, man, the game doesn't care what, sex or gender you are. It cares about can you get buckets. And she obviously has a career of doing that as a player and then now as a coach. And, going back and listening to Caitlin Cooper's podcast, she talked about how after her playing career in WNBA and kind of going through some injuries, she went to flag football. And that's where kind of the creativity started. And then, just bouncing ideas off of Sue Bird, who she called like her basketball soulmate or something like that. And it's pretty cool. I'm sure she probably gave, Sue a text or something like that or will at some point to say, hey, it worked because I remembered that play from the Eastern Conference Finals when they ran it the first time.
Got the shot.
Yeah, and actually
Haliburton, of course, was out.
Yeah, and then the first time they ran it in that series, they actually got a better look with Aaron Neesmith because he was like wide open. And the one last night, Haliburton just made a hell of a shot. People are criticizing like watching after the game, like, what does Giannis do and this and that, and he should have did this. I'm like, man, it was a hell of a shot. Sometimes the other guy is just better. It's fine.
I love the fact that on TNT, too, there was like 30 seconds of, was that heel out of bounds? Did he step down on it? Was it raised? What was going on?
Jeff.
And then finally to hear them say, oh, no, absolutely okay. Everything was great.
Jeff, I was thinking of it like, if I'm at the park, that's good. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. I was like, if you tell me this is out of bounds, we might have to send security to save these people.
Well, they were only I thought they were just reviewing the foul, right?
No, a lot of the talk, at least on the broadcast, was that, hey, it's his heel out of bounds.
Right. Oh, I thought what they said was just, we've confirmed that it's a foul.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I thought the official came on the mic and only mentioned the foul.
Yeah,
I think the broadcast was wrong, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
Is they were not reviewing.
But
if
it
he
adds
was
to
in
the
bounds
drama
or
of the
not.
moment if you're just watching TV.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, you got to let the guy land, and so that's the new age NBA. If you get in the guy's landing zone, it's automatic foul.
Yeah,
and
they call that all the time.
Yeah, and so bucket good, free throw good. I was thinking, don't do all this and miss the free throw. And, you get out of there with a huge win.
Another busy night for Indianapolis throughout all of basketball, college basketball included. More on the Horizon League in a moment as we continue the Fan Morning Show on a winning Wednesday for the Pacers as they get the victory over the Bucks last night, 115-114. You heard it live on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan Morning Show continues next.
Invitation Tournament. Experience college basketball's beginning with the NIT coming to Hinkle Fieldhouse April 1st and 3rd.
The shot heard from Oshkosh all the way to Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Tyrese Haliburton last night, a 4-point play with 3 seconds to go. And that's where we will begin this morning check down. Mark Dykton, let's hear from the man who hit the shot himself first. Here was Haliburton postgame on his heroics.
Usually I hate running that play because I feel like I never get the ball. And I tried to convince coach to let me switch sides, and they were like, no, run it the regular way. And, AA and Miles did a great job of causing confusion in the middle of the court, and I just kind of came off, got open, Drew found me, and, just made the shot.
AA would be Aaron Neesmith. He certainly had some pick elements to it. Turner, also Siakam, and Haliburton, of course, did the rest. And rising above, Giannis Antetokounmpo for the 3 and the foul and the free throw. Rick Carlisle's thoughts on the play.
Just an amazing sequence of events. What a shot. What a play at the end. And Reggie Miller's in the building. So you got to feel like that gave us a little bit of good fortune as well. So I'm really proud of the group.
Anytime you can get some love from Reggie Miller and kind of channel what he did, it's a good night.
Did I see a John Haliburton sprint over to Reggie after the shot? And a high five for him in true John Haliburton fashion. Boy, Tyrese needed that, though. I mean, it was a very quiet game in his return, and no one needed it more than Andrew Nembhard after what that final minute was. Missing those 2 open threes, missing the free throw as well. 115, 114, nothing for the Pacers the next 2 nights. At Philly coming up on Friday, at Milwaukee in the season finale with the Bucks on Saturday. The winner of that, in all likelihood, Milwaukee would definitely have home court if these 2 teams faced off from a head-to-head standpoint and were tied in the standings. The Pacers would also get home court if they are able to win. So just a monumental one coming up Saturday up in Milwaukee. All right, shifting gears college-wise, we've got Butler in action. They've got to win 4 in 4 days. Providence today in the 8-9 matchup out in Madison Square Garden. They are a slight favorite in that one. Jeff, you think the Bulldogs keep their season alive?
I do. I think they win at least one, maybe get on a little bit of run. It's hard to imagine them winning 4 in 4 days, though, based on what we've seen over the last, really all season long.
You have to beat St. John's to get on a run. That would be the 1 seed there in New York City. Horizon League action last night. It was Robert Morris capturing the Horizon League crown for the first time. They pulled away from Youngstown State in the second half, so they've been very good over the last 2 months here. They've punched their ticket to the dance. It was Green Bay on the women's side. Fort Wayne hung in there certainly for a half, but Green Bay, which has been the class of the Horizon League from a women's standpoint here over the last decade or so, those are your winners from the state fairgrounds. And boys, I am sad.
What's
What
got
this
you
is
big
about.
sad?
Why would I be sad?
I know why.
Big sad. Go ahead,
I know
Mark.
why.
Go ahead, Mark.
Would it possibly be because Tiger Woods sent out a statement yesterday? Would that be it?
Anytime I see a tweet from Tiger, I immediately feel my Achilles has just ruptured.
He was getting close to coming back, too. He'd played pretty well and was walking well the last time we saw him playing with Charlie. And then he tears an Achilles. And we're talking 4 to 6 months now.
Disband the TCL, right? Is that the cause of it? You got too much virtual golf going?
Is that the acronym?
I think he might have been working out.
No, I'm blaming the golf league.
There we go. Did you not like the golf league there?
It was fine, but I wanted real Tiger on a real course.
That body's as broken as that new logo.
I was gonna
of his.
say, yeah, he's been through so much physically,
and again, many of it's self-induced here. I don't want to act like it is not.
This
It's
is fair.
Tiger Woods, and that announcement yesterday. Shout out to Braden Smith, Big Ten Player of the Year. We've got some Matt Painter audio. Definitely want to queue up later in describing what just a hell of a talent he is. So 3rd straight year that Purdue takes home that honor. Big Ten is going to start today, 4 o'clock. Our first games over there at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Purdue, again, will take on the winner of USC Rutgers. That is the final game tonight over there. And Indiana and Oregon in action coming up noon today. Anything else on your guys' front?
No, I think I'm pretty good. You covered the Tiger stuff and getting ready to go for the Big Ten tournament today. 3 games. And then, of course, tomorrow at noon, Indiana will take on Oregon. And then Purdue plays at 9 against the winner of USC Rutgers.
I know we'll get to the Daniel Jones signing here on the other side.
Mark will make sure we get to it.
We'll obviously hit on that. Mark Dykton, congrats. But did want to make sure we mentioned this. I know the broadcast mentioned it last night. Doc Rivers, a very emotional pregame.
Yeah.
Junior Bridgman, certainly I think when you think of the state of Indiana and basketball, people in the state, I don't know maybe if he's the first, 5 or 6 someone would think of, but he is certainly a legend in this state, past, I think, the age of 71, if I saw correctly there. Played at East Chicago, East Chicago, Washington, one of those great teams in the early 70s, went on to play at Louisville, was a part owner with the Milwaukee Bucks, so that's why the Doc Rivers emotion you saw pregame last night there, and did just a ton from a business standpoint and a philanthropic standpoint after his NBA career. So
didn't he develop just a whole bunch of restaurants in one of the chains?
Yeah, he owned a bunch of Wendy's.
Yeah,
I think that's how he made a ton of, I believe, Chili's as well, a ton of his money there.
He was fun to watch in the NBA with the Bucks back in the Sidney Moncrief days, man. That was fun.
Yeah, I know he's like, look at the list of athlete billionaires. He was on there. And
again, not, based off necessarily the playing career spirit.
And I think it speaks to, he was like the embodiment of what everyone always tells people about sports. It's like the ball's going to stop bouncing someday. What are you going to do next? And it seemed like he always had a plan, and obviously had a legendary life and career on and off the court. And just one of those things where you can kind of feel the NBA, mourn for him. And I'm curious to hear Rick Carlisle's thoughts as well, because he's, he usually weighs in when these types of things happen with some type of perspective to kind of give you what it was like, as a player and as a person.
And I think you don't have to look far as involvement in NBA Africa. Just look at the court last night to see, what that has helped produce with both teams in action there. So rest in peace to Junior Bridgman and his family. All right, on the other side, Mark Dykton is celebrating here. His pantry will be full in the coming days.
I might be the only one celebrating in town.
Moonwalking this morning. I walked in this morning. He's moonwalking.
I did see, a little bit of a murmur of people thinking Daniel Jones will start over Anthony Richardson.
So I have a question. This was the backup QB draft. Is it still valid if the guy's not the backup? Come week 1,
It's just who they signed.
Is your backup making $14 million a year?
Yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out a way.
Does that mean we take away Mark Snacks?
I'm trying to read I'm reading the fine print.
Well, Anthony Richardson's on the roster. None of us drafted him, so wouldn't it just default back to me anyway?
Yes. See, that is what winning
sounds like
does.
a technicality.
I got the loopholes, guys.
Should have drafted Jason Bean. More on that on the other side, and certainly the heroics last night inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Fan Morning Show here on a Wednesday, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Draft, I will select Daniel Jones. Not necessarily that I want it, but I think it's the most likely scenario.
$14 million over 1 year for Daniel Jones. Really strong deal for a either bridge starter or maybe more or backup quarterback. He can get back there with the Colts, just needs to beat out Anthony Richardson, who at one point they thought would be their franchise starter, and he still might be. But that now becomes one of the most interesting training camp competitions. Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson, thanks to today's signing.
I am snacking. Cheetos, Pringles, ramen, French fries, chicken, nuggets, ice cream, sandwich. What am I craving? What am I craving? I am snacking.
That's right, I'm craving. I'm snacking and I'm craving because I won the Daniel Jones sweepstakes.
But is this going to be any different from the way you eat every day?
Maybe. But you guys are paying, so yeah, it is actually.
That's how that goes. So we decided what our snacks are going to be?
So James was asking yesterday. I said, save it for the show, man. Let's play this out
No,
here.
I asked this because he makes it seem like whatever he's going to ask for, I can't find unless I go get in a time machine.
So I have 3 different snacks. 2 are probably easier to find than the third. So you guys get to do rock, paper, scissors to figure out who gets the
more pain.
Who draws there.
He's rubbing my nose in it.
He wants something different from each one of us, is what he's saying.
James may be regretting not taking the first overall pick.
Oh, I'm definitely regretting this.
Yeah. So I already told Kevin, like he asked as well what I wanted, and I had mentioned earlier, in the 90s there was this snack called Koala Yummies. They no longer make it anymore. There is now a thing called Koala's March, I guess is what they're calling it. It's a pentagon-shaped box. I will send you guys a picture as well in our group chat. It is available. It's at Walmart. It's at other stores as well. I've not had Koala's March, so I'm curious if it will stack up to Koala Yummies. You have that as an option. You can also get me another old childhood favorite that I haven't had in ages, Andy Capp's hot fries. Those are still made.
Wow.
Those are delicious. Those
Where
are
do you even
outstanding.
get those?
You figure it out, man. You find
Wow.
it. It's out and about. Probably the easiest to find. Mike and Ike's Sour Mega Mix. I love me some sour candy. Those are my go-to at the moment.
I bought some Mike and Ike's for Rosie the other night at the Horizon League.
So whoever wants
She
to,
like 'em?
you guys can
candy.
figure out how you want to do this. That is 3 snacks. You are all tasked with finding one of them and bringing them to me. Now, I'm not saying that there will be repercussions if it takes longer to get this stuff.
Sounds like a threat.
I'm about to say, whoa.
Man.
I feel like he's taking this whole thing and like, I have all the hands.
We don't really turned here.
We don't want any Jake Query welching here, is what I'm saying. We want paid off bets, and we want them soon.
No, I'm a man of my
He's
word.
demanding things.
No,
He's throwing people under the bus. He's throwing shade.
I tend to recall when I won the Shane Steichen bet, it was a bit of a delay from you and Jake Query.
I don't recall that at all. I think I was right on.
payment.
I was prompt, I thought. So anyway, I will be out of town in a couple weeks, going on spring break vacation. I would like some road trip snacks. So there's your deadline. You have 2 weeks.
Dang. Okay, 2 weeks is reasonable.
Fighting words there
I
from
know.
Mark Dykman.
I just like the whole rhythm of the way you're demanding all of this and the way you've gone about it. He clearly is in charge of the whole thing here.
I feel like I just got my ass kicked at 7:30 this morning.
So you
Bad
guys
enough
figure
the
out who
Tiger
wants to
Woods
get what
news.
snacks, and then go from there. So
I think I'll go with the Andy Cap hot fries.
there you go.
I'll go with whatever I can find the quickest.
Andy
Okay.
Cap's hot fries.
You got
Put me
Mike and Ike's
down.
Sour Mega Mix, or you got Koala's March.
I mean, all this stuff can be found at like Walmart or
Yeah,
Kroger,
you
so
can
it's not
find
like
it. It's not
that hard to
crazy.
find.
Just gotta do a little searching.
But a little pain.
All right, so let's talk about what you've won here. Daniel Jones, I thought Ian Rappaport said it best there coming in to the segment. Like, is he really just competition? Is he a bridge starter? Is he going to be the backup? Maybe the starter if he, like, where are we at, Kevin? If you're Anthony Richardson today, what's your thought process?
Well, I think you got bigger issues to worry about internally than worrying about Daniel Jones. I guess I'd start there. Again, I've said it for several weeks now. It just sounds like me waking up in the morning. And I don't get the this could be Sam Darnold, this could be Baker Mayfield, this could be Geno Smith. What do those 3 have in common?
They're still very average quarterbacks.
Well, sure, but where do those 3 resurrect their careers?
Seattle?
All in the NFC.
All in the NFC.
That's where the Band-Aids work. Band-Aids don't work in the AFC. You've had the same Final Four quarterbacks the last couple of seasons. And that doesn't include Justin Herbert. That doesn't include Bo Nix. That doesn't include Tua. It doesn't include a resurrection of Trevor Lawrence. And also, if you look at those 3 guys, too, they didn't have the amount of starting chances Daniel Jones got 70 starts in his NFL career. It's not like he's had Anthony Richardson's
and his
had
winning percentage is what, about 33, 35%?
Richardson's had 15 starts.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine sitting through 55 more Anthony Richardson starts and then him going to another team and them saying, boy, I'd like to see that guy get some action. So this is part of just the reality of where the Colts were at. You know, I didn't view it as anything super, super real. Sure, he probably has a chance to start just inevitably because A, Richardson's play could be poor, or B, he's probably going to get hurt. But I don't view this as a resurrection that's going to happen here in Indianapolis.
No, I view it as you have a backup plan in case Anthony doesn't work out. But that backup plan is for 1 year. Like Daniel Jones didn't sign for multiple years. I truly believe if, best case scenario obviously is Anthony working out. He has a great year 3. You're like, you know what? We got our guy. He's healthy. He's improved his accuracy, all these things. But I will admit, he's behind the 8 ball. A lot has to go right. And if it doesn't go right and you go to Daniel Jones, that is a 1-year rental, and you're probably starting over completely, I would think, at quarterback in 2026. That's my thought process.
It's interesting. I was listening to so many people talk about this. Dan Orlovsky was one of them, and he was saying, look, you come out in mini camps, and you're going to see shorts and helmets, and Daniel Jones is going to look terrific. He's going to run the offense. It's going to be on time. It's going to be in rhythm. It's going to look crisp and fantastic. And he says, and then you're going to have everybody put on the pads, and you're going to feel the full force of what Anthony Richardson really does and is, as far as just being more powerful and stronger than everybody else and being able to utilize that. And at the end of the day, it'll probably be Anthony Richardson starting on week 1, I would imagine.
That's what I think.
Well, I think that's what makes it difficult, too, is like you can't feel Richardson until a real game. I mean, he wears a red jersey.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe some preseason action. But I think the issue with this, too, is, unlike a Joe Flacco maybe from last year, Daniel Jones needs work. Right? Like, you thought at that point with Flacco, it's like, oh, he's he's an accomplished player at this point. Like, you weren't going to change 39-year-old Joe Flacco. He is what he is. Daniel Jones, to play and to play effectively, he needs help. Like, he needs improvement. Well, that means he needs reps. Or what does Anthony Richardson need?
More than anything, he needs reps. And that's what we talked about a week ago. That's what
makes it so confusing of this is not something where, just battle royale here of, 6 reps here and 6 reps there. It's like, no, both of these guys desperately need playing time. And the thing, too, about Daniel Jones, you look back at his college career and David Cutcliffe at Duke. I mean, you want to talk to the Mannings about how they view David Cutcliffe. They view him as one of the, greatest offensive minds, greatest quarterback minds out there. Brian Dable with the Giants. It's not like he has had this, egregious coaching throughout his career either. So, part of this was just the inevitable reality. I don't know if my tune would have been much different for any of those other quarterbacks out there. Maybe a Justin Fields would have sounded differently. I've made it clear that Sam Darnold at a $37 million price tag was outrageous to me. I just view 2025 as you get clarity on Anthony Richardson once and for all. And if it's not the answer that you want, then the 2026 draft means the Colts are taking a quarterback.
And I'll add this as well. I don't view Daniel Jones as like this life raft for the regime to jump on and say, oh, you know what? Anthony didn't work out, but we kind of told you that. Gave you a warning. We're going to go to Daniel Jones and kind of, stick around and pick the next guy. Like, no, I would truly believe if you're serious about winning, this is the guy you chose. This is the highest drafted quarterback since Andrew Luck. You go up or down with him is kind of how I would look at it with this regime. Like, I wouldn't feel like you have earned the right to pick another quarterback after years of kind of going through this if he doesn't work out.
How do you feel about the $14 million?
I mean, there's an element of it's kind of doing business in today's NFL. You know what? Jimmy G was $11 million, I think it was. So I
just the price tag.
Kind of. It might be a hair rich for my liking, but again, I think this is a little bit of welcome to 2025 quarterback economics. And I think at times we do forget, like, the salary cap has gone up. So,
and it's not $37 million for Sam Darnold.
But like $14 million again. This is not the same $14 million price tag that it was 5 years ago with just how the salary cap has gone up here. I've always felt this about the Colts and their offseason moves. If you want to go out there and you want to spend all that money on Matt Gay, whoop-de-doo. But, like, you can't let those things take you away from other moves. And again, so far this offseason, I feel like the Colts have gone out and they've done significant things in the secondary. Like, I'm fine with you, whatever. If you feel like you need to take your kicker level from a B to an A, and obviously Matt Gay hasn't been an A, but if you feel like that is the path you need to go down, okay, fine. But it can't hamstring you and tie your hands from other moves. So that's what I would say about the Daniel Jones thing. If you feel like, based off all those other quarterbacks, that whatever, style-wise, boom, it's somewhat similar to Richardson, and, if you have him for 3 games, you have a chance to win 2, okay. I would probably disagree with that, but if you think that, make sure it's not keeping you away from making a move for a defensive lineman right now, or making a move for a tight end right now, or insert another need that's still on the table.
To that end, James, are we mostly done here for the Colts right now, or is there 1 or 2 other minor things that could still happen?
I think there are some moves still out there, mainly because over the cap, which we use to check out player contracts, they updated it last night, and Traverius Ward, first year of his deal is $9 million cap hit. Cam Bynum, first year of his deal is $7 million cap hit. Now, obviously, we saw the total money that these guys are getting, and, annually, I believe it's, 15 a year for Cam, and then about 20 a year for Traverius Ward. But, again, how the contract structured matters the most. So you look at the cap hits combined, that's $16 million for both players in the first year of their contracts. It's backloaded, which makes me think that, again, to Kevin's point that he made yesterday, they probably have more money to work with than we might have thought initially. Don't know the exact number because the restructure for Braid Smith isn't out there just yet. But at this point, I wouldn't expect like another headlining move, but I would expect probably some dibbling and dabbling when it comes to depth, and you need that. Obviously they had the Wesley French re-signing yesterday. Not a household name around the league, not even probably a big name in Indianapolis, but depth matters because guys get hurt. It's the NFL. And so that's what I would say. I guess on my wish list, if I'm a Colts fan or even as a reporter, as I'm going down like, okay, did they check this box? I would say, weak side linebacker is probably like the next most notable move they could make, mainly, or they could draft somebody because they drafted well at the linebacker spot. But that's another hole in the roster that I'm looking at.
I think D-line for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that needs a rather notable investment. Offensive line depth in general. And then, maybe another safety. When you look at, it's Nick Cross and obviously Cam Bynum, but then, your backups back there.
Is
certainly
that a draft thing?
Up in the air, possibly. But to James's point, they have done some things differently from a structuring of the contract. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, more with Cam Bynum. This is a new approach from the Colts as well, and I think it's a healthy approach to try and, again, create a little bit more cap space. So even with all of this that they've done so far, they still have enough. They honestly could take a relatively big swing. Now, I think they'd rather take 4 singles than 1 home run. I think that's kind of how they'll view it with this money. But they do have the opportunity to do something still of significant note here if they like to.
So, KB, when you're talking about defensive line, do you want it everywhere? Do you want interior? Do you want edge? What are you looking at?
I could honestly probably talk into either.
That's why I'm
Dayo Dangbo walked, and ironically, he is a versatile defensive lineman. Played a little end, played a little tackle. So
maybe in free
somebody
agency, best
in that
available?
mold. Again, somebody in that mold. Now, Samson Ebicom coming off the torn Achilles. I said this earlier in the week, and it's unfortunate, but I would treat corner like Juju Brents is not on the roster. I would almost treat guys with torn Achilles like they're not on the roster. If you look at the history with guys with torn Achilles,
it's a bonus if you get them back
within that first year.
Yeah.
And so I know Samson will be 13 months removed, I guess, when it's all said and done. 14 months removed when it's all said and done. And they obviously are encouraged by him a bit, but still, that's just not a game that you want to play, I think. So defensive end wise, with Kwity Paye in a contract year, that would probably be something to look into.
That's how I feel about it as well. I don't trust the Achilles recovery. I've seen it too many times. It's usually the second year post-operation when a guy, if he can get back to that level, gets back to that level. We've seen it with Julian Blackmon. We saw it even with, I believe, Dallas Flowers. I know he went on to Tampa Bay. It takes a while for you to get back to who you are. So, again, banking on a guy who plays that position 30 to come back and be a difference maker for you, I think that's a little short-sighted. So investments on the D-line will definitely be big time. And then, other thing I was looking at when it comes to going back to the quarterback, Daniel Jones is I don't view him in the same light as like, oh, he's going to resurrect his career. I think he is who he is. I think Sam Darnold, to a certain degree, is who he is. Like, don't get me wrong, he had a great season at a great time, but when they played in the biggest games of that season, what did he do? Nothing.
Yeah, the only thing
their interior offensive line was bad. I'll give him that. But like, I think that him being with Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison is being like undersold a bit because those guys are difference makers. And I'm not saying that do we have the same caliber of coaching in Indianapolis, the same caliber of playmakers in Indianapolis? I'm not too sure about that.
Well, I would say this about Jones. The 70 starts, I don't know if that resonates with people. That is a huge number. Like,
yes.
If you want to play this out,
Fair.
Darnold had less than 40 in New York. So what these other teams have banked on, Geno Smith with New York had half that number. Baker did not get to that number in Cleveland. So what these teams are banking on is, hey, they got an opportunity, but they didn't get that big of an opportunity. 70 starts?
That's 4.5 seasons.
I mean, that is an insane amount of time. Multiple coaching regimes there. That is a big, big number. So, to your point, James, I do think there is more of a finished product on that than most. Stephen Holder going to join us here in 10. Bruce Weber at 9. Is that right, Mark?
Yes.
Actually, it's fitting.
I love Bruce Weber.
Well,
He's once again at the airport, he told me. I'm like, you travel all the time, Bruce. You're on the
traveling
plane
here,
constantly.
right?
Yeah.
Traveling here today. Big Ten tournament will get underway starting today. It's fitting we have him on with Tyrese Haliburton. I know I asked him this a couple years ago, but I think it's worth bringing up today. He coached Haliburton on the U19 USA team back, obviously at this point a handful of years ago with Evan Mobley, with Cade Cunningham, with Jalen Green, and he walked away, and I'll let him speak to it, but wildly impressed with Haliburton. And again, at that point, Haliburton was still the 3-star recruit who had 1 year at Iowa State, and yet he struck Bruce Weber to that degree. So looking forward to that conversation coming up at 9. You think that shot does anything for Haliburton?
I think anytime you do something like that.
Or do we make too much out of those one moments?
No, because I think you just add it to your reservoir of success, and that we all know that with professional athletes and high-level athletes, confidence is everything, James. And when you start piling things up like that, and he's had all of the assists to the turnover, and we've been praising him for that since the All-Star break, and now coming off an injury, kind of struggled in the first half, and he comes up in the biggest moment with a 4-point play. Because we all talk about the 3-point shot, which is fantastic, and it was a great play design, and he got him an open, easy look. But you still have the pressure of going to have to hit that free throw to make sure you don't go into overtime and just put this game away, James.
Well, they're free for a reason, and so and he knocks him down pretty well. I will say though,
you sound like your dad more than anything. Right
well, look, I'm being serious, and this dude, my dad could not shoot a lick, and he knows this. And I was not a great free throw shooter myself. Made more than I missed in high school, but not a great number. But I mean, seriously, with certain guys, when he steps to the line, I'm like, you're gonna make the shot. Like Haliburton's one of them. I trust him. You trust Kevin Durant. You trust Damian Lillard to make free throws at the end of the game. But I will say, you feel great in the moment and you're riding high, but, you got to see this team again on Saturday, and that's another big one. And I think just being real, I'm still a bit concerned. Maybe he was rusty or whatever, but, like, Haliburton didn't move that great last night. And as I was telling you off air, like, he couldn't get around anybody. And I wonder if that is something that's going to, get better with time. Yeah, is it the hip? Or is it something he's going to have to manage? I don't think the Haliburton is great, like, as a one-on-one, go at you, get around you, score anyways. Like, I think he has his moments where he can be that. But if he's compromising in any way, I don't know if I trust him to be fully who he usually is. And so I thought even with the shot last night, he wasn't fully himself. Now, perhaps that's just time off, perhaps an injury, but we'll see how it goes over the next few days.
Yeah, he was 4 of 11 at that point, 1 of 5 from 3. I thought what was extra impressive about the shot, I mean, there's so many layers to it, but he's going towards, he's sprinting and he's running on, going towards his injured hip. That was to the left, and he's rising above Giannis for that moment. This is a little bit more psychological than anything, but I am curious what that could do for him. He had a very up and down playoff run. He had some high highs and he had some low lows.
That is true.
When you think back to his first playoff experience, he had the shot, the step back on Lopez there late last night. That goes in and out. Then he has his lone turnover on that travel there. Obviously, Nembhard had more of the, I would say, egregious mistakes and just missing the open threes and missing the free throw there. But even Tyrese was kind of kicking himself post game, for that. So I don't want to make too much of the moment, but it's the biggest regular season game of the year. It's against that opponent. Reggie's in the building, and that shot on national television. That's a lot of layers to a regular season play. And just what does that kind of instill for him moving forward? I agree with James. I think he deserves the right to kind of chalk it up to Russ, because obviously he had a great month of February until getting hurt there. But, man, in the regular season moment category, you'd be hard-pressed to find many, if any, others that are going to go above that. And I know we played the intro to start the show. I know we'll do that probably coming up the 8 o'clock hour. Quite the scene last night inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
I think sometimes you just listen to the inflection in the voice of such an experienced guy like Mark doing the play-by-play Boyle, and as excited and as enthusiastic as he was, I think that spoke to the moment, that regular season big moment.
And he gave us the foul. He didn't even give us the shot went in there for a few seconds. And how about the fake energy from Brian Anderson, Bucks TV play-by-play voice? I thought he actually gave us some fake energy on TNT. I always find that really difficult for those guys.
Oh, you can't win.
That would be like Chris Denary nationally having to call the flip side of it.
And being all excited about the team that you're just playing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought Anderson actually did a nice job of it. I know it's probably heavily fake, but nice job.
Sometimes you got to be fake, okay?
And that shot, itself.
Don't do that.
No, I'm just saying.
It was such a cool shot. How do you not? I mean, I get that, his paychecks are signed by obviously the Bucks, et cetera, and I guess TNT.
Probably make some more at TNT, I would think.
But still, just the whole, can you imagine the play itself working out, the shot being over Giannis, obviously in that building as well? Pretty damn cool.
Really good stuff. All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk to Stephen Holder, find out more about the Colts and what they might still have on their minds as we continue to roll through free agency here and get ready for the NFL draft. It's the Fan Morning Show along with James Boyd and Kevin Bowen, the excitedly happy Mark Dykton today, who's now during that entire segment, did you guys notice, just kept sending us pictures and texts of the things that...
Well, he sent one.
I want to make it easy. Well, there's three in there. There's one of each snack. I wanted to make it easy for you, Jeff. You're all concerned you're not going to be able to find it. So I'm like, here's a visual. Now you guys get out and shop.
We'll do it all
shop
next.
till you drop.
It's the Fan Morning Show at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
3 9/10 to play. Nemhart will get it in. Here comes a three and a foul! A foul! A foul! As Haliburton, floating out of bounds in front of the Milwaukee bench, hits a three and draws a foul.
Haliburton's got the ball. Haliburton rises up. And he hits it. And there's a whistle. Oh, my goodness. Tyrese Haliburton hits a three and is fouled.
You are bumming off the screen here, and right in the grill of Giannis, and right in front of Damian Lillard, who's on the bench right now, with a chance for a 4-point play. You don't understand the degree of difficulty.
Foul shot clean. Let's see if Milwaukee can go the length. They've got 3 4/10 seconds. They need a field goal. Antetokounmpo to inbound. He got it to Trent. Back to Antetokounmpo. Full speed ahead. He pulls up. He lets it go.
And it's short.
And the Pacers win it 115 to 114.
Usually I hate running that play because I feel like I never get the ball.
An amazing sequence of events. What a shot.
There's definitely a lot of Reggie moments in this building, and I'm just trying to create some of my own. But definitely cool that he was here in the building for that.
This is what basketball in the state of Indiana is. It's selfless and it's determined.
Quite the March moment last night inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Those heroics from Tyrese Haliburton. Mark Dykton, excellent there on that opening montage. We don't typically do that for a regular season game, but you and I are on the same wavelength last night when we text each other saying this has got to be a must here on this Wednesday morning. And I believe a man that was watching it last night joins us now. Stephen Holder, I thought you had a pretty accurate tweet of that was just a damn good basketball game. Not even Haliburton drama at the end withstanding. I think 21 lead changes.
No, certainly. And I will tell you, I will readily admit, I am one of those people that, sometimes in the regular season, I struggle to really pay attention to the game in the NBA. I watch the big dunks and I look up when there's a run, and then I'm looking at my phone and not paying attention. I'm that guy. And that was not the case last night. I was glued to that game. And I haven't watched the Pacers as regularly this year, to be completely honest, but that game was, you talk about playoff atmosphere, and we say that a lot. I think we overuse that. No. That was a playoff-type atmosphere. And I wish I was in the building last night because that looked like that was fun, man. So if we can have a few more of those, I'm down for it, for sure.
This reminds me of when we were watching the Bucks and the Pacers in the playoffs during the draft last year at West 56th Street. We're all kind of like, trade back so we can finish watching this game.
It was much more interesting than whatever they were doing in the draft, that's for sure.
Exactly. So while you were scrolling through TikTok on your phone yesterday.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What was your reaction to, hey, Daniel Jones is coming to the Colts and what that could mean for Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, big TikTok guy, me. I'm actually due for a post. I need to do that. Thanks for the reminder.
There you go.
I would say I thought this was entirely predictable and unexpected. And that's not a bad thing. I just think we knew going in where they were kind of going to fall in this whole quarterback landscape. When Justin Fields is basically being handed the Jets starting quarterback job, you're not going to be able to compete with that if you are, just as an example, right? The Colts were not going to be able to compete with that if you are looking for someone to be in competition with their current quarterback, Anthony Richardson, which I think is probably the right approach. All I'm saying is, that's going to limit what you can acquire on the open market. And Daniel Jones kind of fits that guy, maybe a maybe starter, probably an above average backup. I think that's exactly the wheelhouse they were in. The money, probably more than they wanted to spend, but he had options, right? He had two teams looking to sign him at least. And so that's just kind of how it goes, and that's the cost of doing business. So I think they ended up right where I thought they would.
Stephen Holder from ESPN.com joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline right now, talking about the Colts and all the moves they've made. How worried should Anthony Richardson be for his starting position right now, Stephen?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think I don't know what to expect from Daniel Jones. I would say that I kind of have Gardner Minshew expectations for him. And what I mean is a guy who, if he comes in and he executes in Shane Steichen's offense, he can be effective and maybe can be a guy who throws for a high percentage potentially. I guess the question then becomes, can Anthony Richardson's big play ability override that? I think it can, because I think that's what got him the job as a rookie when he was battling with Gardner Minshew. As much of a battle as that was, I guess, he got the job after one preseason game. So be that as it may, I do think if he can bring that big play potential, which he does have, and that's his redeeming quality, if he can balance that with a little bit more consistency, I think he wins this job. But he has to do that, because you can't just have all explosive plays and then none of the consistency. That's the balance just isn't there. He has to bring some balance to it, and then I think he is the better choice. But if it's going to be one-sided, then Daniel Jones and his ability to at least be consistent and maybe not explosive, maybe that becomes more appealing. So that's going to be the question, I think, for Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I think what's always difficult seeing with these battles too is like Richardson goes the entire offseason and he outside the preseason he never goes with it without a red jersey on. It's like his best asset you never really see.
Yeah, it is a complication of this whole scenario, right? And honestly, they're not going to run him in the preseason, frankly, when they're probably trying to decide this thing. So I do wonder how they're going to, sort of factor that in, and how do they square all of that? I don't know. That's a very good question. I mean, obviously they have seen Anthony Richardson. They know he can run the football. It's not a question. All I'm saying is, if you're just going by the eye test in training camp and the preseason, you aren't going to get the full picture, at least as it relates to Anthony Richardson. I think that's a very fair point and something we have to remember.
Stephen Holden from ESPN with us here, Payless Liquors Hotline. Reminder, new league year officially starts 4 o'clock today, so I don't know how much official announcements you'll get around the league, but you certainly will from some teams with their free agents. Stephen, one thing that has struck me here in the last couple of days is the Colts, it seems like they've restructured their contracts a bit, or I should say they've structured their contracts a bit differently. And I think they've got a little bit more cap space than I maybe originally would have thought, like on Monday when some of these deals were announced. I bring up all that to say, A, it's interesting, and B, do you think they're still involved at all with Trey Hendrickson?
I'm not clear on that specific question, but I think that would be fascinating if they are. I'd say this: we've seen a lot of things happen. We've seen teams spend a lot of money, and yet we have not really seen any traction there. So I don't know if that means it's not going to happen, or it's less likely to happen, or whether it means that maybe the price is in question and may be going down. It can't go up at this point. The price is going to go down. So that bodes well for the Colts if they are interested, because there's going to be fewer parties that are even in that conversation at this point, given all of the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been spent. So I'll be interested to see if anything happens on that front. I just don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. I do think that Chris Ballard has certainly been out of character in the Colts in general in this period. You mentioned the structure of the contracts. I know this is boring and sort of wonky sometimes, but it matters a lot if you care about cap space and how much your team can spend. And the Colts have historically, because they are not the most cash-rich franchise, they have often structured the guaranteed portion of these contracts in a much different way than a lot of teams. They haven't forked over these big signing bonuses right up front because they have structured it differently to kind of save on the cash. This year they have. That, to me, was pretty remarkable. And I think it shows that this is a different approach. This is a different day, a different situation, and Chris Ballard's putting it on the line because part of the reason you don't do big signing bonuses as an executive, one reason, is because it makes those contracts harder to get out of on the back end if you have to. So he tries to play it safe. This year, he's saying, you know what, we're going all in and we're doing what we have to do. So that is definitely notable, and I do not think we should just sort of gloss over that.
Do you think that's him asking the owner if he can do that?
It's probably a combination. I think some of it has been just a function of cash flow to a degree. And then the other part of it is kind of what I laid out, which is he is, when you talk about dead money on the salary cap, which, you see these veteran players getting cut across the league and we just move on and turn the page. But there is a consequence to that in many cases. And what it is there's money remaining on your salary cap after that guy walks out the door. Well, that's oftentimes very prohibitive for teams. Well, Chris Ballard, he treats that stuff like the plague. He hates dead money. He avoids it like it's a matter of life and death. So the fact that he is now putting himself in a situation where that may come into play, I think that tells you that the situation is dire for him. I would also, keep in mind that, he probably knows if he doesn't get it right, he's not going to be here anyway. So that'll be somebody else's problem. So maybe that's part of the thinking there.
Stephen, as we say goodbye to a couple of guys through free agency this week, who will the Colts miss the most between Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, and Daya Odebengo? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think Will Fries was probably the guy who would have the most impact in terms of being able to replace him. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll feel that loss probably the most. Now, Odengbo is a very productive player, even though he didn't have the sack totals last year. He led them in pressures. He definitely is a guy who can move around that defensive line. So he had a lot of presence there, and a guy that you really had to identify as an offense. Where is he at, and where's he rushing from? So he's going to be a big loss. I would just say, though, the depth on the defensive line allows them to absorb that a little more. Will Fries, they don't have like an obvious high-level replacement there. You saw what happened last year when he went down. They spent the rest of the season trying to figure out how to replace him, and they didn't do it very well. They had to go get Mark Glowinski, who formerly played that position for them at right guard a few years ago. They had to go get him off the couch. He was unsigned at home, and they brought him in, and he started 2 weeks later. So that speaks to just how difficult it was to replace Will Fries. They got to figure that out.
So I want to ask off-the-wall question, because why not? You talked about the money these guys are going to be making, particularly like the DBs, Cam Bynum and Sharius Ward. They're going to make some big money. Yeah. What would Stephen Holder do with a $60 million payday? First thing.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. Let's see. Well, first, I'm going to book like 7 vacations because there's so many places I want to go, and there's never enough money. So I'm thinking about that now. Like, where am I going to go this year, this off season? And I have more ideas than money. So that's the first thing I'm doing. And my passport is going to get a workout. That's the first thing. And then, yeah, all right, I like cars. I like cars. So I don't know what I would buy. What would you buy? $60 million? I don't even know. I mean, that's a whole different conversation, I don't know, man. That it would have to be something that would like blow your mind in terms of the car. It would be amazing.
I don't know. Between your love of cars, travel, and probably a couple of vacation or properties, you'd be Mike Tyson. You'd be looking for more money in like 5 years.
I'm already broke, right? Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'd have to get that third contract, not just the second.
That's how that goes. Stephen Holder joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Thanks, buddy. It's always good to talk to you and hear from you.
All right, man. You got it.
There you go. We have talked a lot about the guys that the Colts have picked up, but I did want to talk a little bit more, KB, about what the Colts lose in Fries, Ryan Kelly, and especially Odeengbo, because I do think that he was a plus for the Colts on defense. I really do.
Yeah, again, versatile, durable. I think it is a loss. I think played the most snaps of any defensive lineman last year, so I feel like that's a need at this point in free agency. I would make the argument it's probably the biggest need in my mind. I kind of look at tight end for the draft. That's kind of where I've shifted with that thought there, so I'll be curious how that plays out. One item to note here, Joel A. Erickson has sent this out for our local fans, the South Bend product, the Ball State product. Danny Pinter back on a one-year deal. So James had yesterday Wesley French returning to the Colts and Danny Pinter. James, that to me is depth bodies at the interior after you have just lost Ryan Kelly and Will Fry. So I don't think necessarily starting jobs are sitting on a platter for either of those two guys, but they have needed both Pinter last season and French the year before to start games for them. Now, this is prior to Tanner Bortolini's arrival, but I look at those two guys, I'd say probably firmly in the mix to compete for a 53-man roster spot.
Absolutely, depth. And it's so funny you said that because I just tweeted out the same thing. So let you know I was on the right track with the sourcing and things like that. But actually, I think Aaron Wilson had it, NFL Reporter, last night at about midnight, and I saw, I was like, I probably should follow up on this. But I think the moves we see now, particularly when it comes to the offensive line, will be probably more interior things. And if we are going to see a bigger splash to maybe stabilize that right side, it'll be in the draft, in my opinion. I don't think that they're going to go out and spend a ton of money on a right guard, for example.
You think better chance Matt Gonzalez at right guard, or people continue to ask me about Braden Smith moving
I think
inside?
It's Matt Gonzalez, and I say this because I went back and read Dane Brugler, our draft analyst at The Athletic, who is one of the best in the game when it comes to breaking down film and stuff. When you read his review of Matt Gonzalez, like pre-draft from the Beast, one of the summaries he gives is that, hey, this guy has all the tools to be a competent tackle, but I could see him moving back inside. And so if you read some of the pre-draft stuff on Matt Gonzalez, a lot of people projected him to move inside to guard, despite not playing guard in college. Just the way his body is kind of made up and some of his skill set, they believe he can be a good guard. So maybe that is the thought process there for the Colts to kick him back inside and maybe have him hopefully thrive there.
Now, all of his game action as a rookie was at tackle. He did do a little bit of guard. I stress little back during the offseason. So that would be a change. Now, Braden Smith, I'm always kind of reminded of this, and it's a very sad story. You know, Braden Smith he was a college guard at Auburn. And one of the reasons why he was moved to tackle is back in the 2018 season, if Colts fans remember the name of Denzel Good, his brother tragically lost his life during the middle of one of the Colts weeks. I want to say it was like a week 4, week 5 game. I think they were playing out in New England on Thursday night. And so they really had to patchwork their offensive line for that week. Denzel, of course, didn't play in the game. And they decided on Braden Smith to go play right tackle. And again, sadly, I guess you would say the rest is history. Braden Smith has really been the mainstay at right tackle ever since. So, yes, he did play guard at Auburn, but that was also 7 years ago. I'm always kind of the thinking, are you really going to – because I think Braden Smith is still a quality right tackle. Are you going to diminish one position potentially and hope that the other one works out? Like, I don't know. I tend to think it would be Gonzalez over Braden Smith there. Keep Braden at right tackle, but that is a storyline to see play out here for the rest of the offseason.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an underrated need, I think, to like the general public, because we look at offensive linemen, and since we don't talk about them often, usually that's a good thing. The only time we talk about the offensive lines when they're doing bad, most of the time. And so you don't want that to be overlooked as a franchise, because we know how much is riding on Anthony Richardson's season. And as much as we want to see him improve and, you know, be more accurate and be more mature and all these things, we also would like him to be able to be protected. And so I think that's a big thing for him, is just making sure that you keep the guy protected as he goes into a huge year 3. And whether it's him or Daniel Jones, I mean, neither one can be successful if they're running for their life every day because the right side of the line is compromised.
Again, new league year, 4 o'clock today, so that means officially teams can start making some deals. So you could see, pen to paper on some of this. Typically, some of these guys are around the country. It might wait till a little bit later in the week, but 4 o'clock today, you could get some of that official announcement from teams on the free agency madness.
It's the Fan Morning Show. Time for a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the National Invitation Tournament. Experience college basketball's beginning with the NIT, coming to Hinkle Fieldhouse April 1st and 3rd.
Don't know if you guys had heard about this, but the Pacers with a thrilling win last night at home over the Milwaukee Bucks. They were trailing 114-111 with just about 3 seconds to go when Tyrese Haliburton, coming off multiple picks, got a good look at the basket.
Game!
game is right. It got everybody excited. Hits the three-pointer, got fouled, hits the free throw. Giannis misses a three-pointer that would have won it at the very end, and the Pacers go on to win it 115-114. Pascal Siakam, 25 points, 12 rebounds. Tyrese Haliburton, kind of slow going for the first half. Got it going in the fourth quarter. Finishes with 14 points and 10 assists, JB.
It was a big-time performance for him, or rather a big-time moment. I know he looked like himself for, some parts of that game, but as we say in sports, if you're, last man standing, who cares?
Still a lot of work to be done.
Mathurin great off the bench. I thought McConnell had some key moments in his typical fashion after, again, he left that game a little early the previous night. And no one happier inside that whole building than Andrew Nembhard. Than Tyrese Haliburton in that shot.
I was going to say, KB, they got work to do still in the next few days to try and finish this up against the Bucks.
No game today, no game tomorrow in Philly, and that is a hodgepodge of a Philly lineup, to say the least, on Friday. The back-to-back will be Milwaukee on Saturday. The Bucks will not be on a back-to-back, and that will likely decide the season series. The Bucks win, they will have the head-to-head tiebreaker. If the Pacers win, they should have it. It would go to another tiebreaker. The Pacers should have it, but heroics last night from Tyrese Haliburton in front of Reggie Miller and company. We'll continue to play that highlight throughout the show.
We did the show from Corteva over on the State Fairgrounds yesterday as we were celebrating the Horizon League tournament. That came to a conclusion last night. KB, Robert Morris, the number 1 seed, downs Youngstown by a score of 89-78.
Bobby Morris, great linebacker for the Colts, and they will be dancing coming up here. One of the scariest mascots you'll ever see. They'll be dancing here coming up and hear their name announced on Sunday. When I think of Robert Morris, do you guys remember when they beat Kentucky in the NIT?
That's been a minute.
I do remember this.
Coach Cal had to go to Robert Morris in that gym. One of the conference title games, did you guys see the Northeast Conference last night? Is in one of these just small high school-looking gyms. I love that.
It's an atmosphere.
Love the intimate atmosphere. I mean, it literally just looks like you're at some big-time, sectional, regional game here in the state of Indiana. I think it was actually an upset, Central Connecticut State losing last night. So we'll continue to punch bids. Again, Big Ten tournament will get underway today. 3 games. I guess you look at it as kind of the play-in games. Tomorrow, Indiana, Oregon at noon. Purdue will play at 9. They'll get the winner of Rutgers and USC tonight. And how about my Irish, baby? 1 down, 4 to go.
That was close last night. You needed all of it.
One of the greatest whistles you'll ever see.
Was not a foul.
That was one of the worst calls I've potentially ever seen to end a game.
But you'll take it, right?
I will happily take it. The Irish move on. And IU fans, break out your candy stripes and your Notre Dame gear, your reversible jacket. North Carolina's on the bubble, folks. You want Notre Dame to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Don't get many IU basketball and Notre Dame basketball fans. Usually it's a Notre Dame football, IU basketball. But break those out today, folks. You need my Irish.
This is true. I mean, Hubert Davis, the first year was great, and since then, man, it's been a little bleak there in North Carolina.
All right. Right now, if you look at Joe Lunardi at ESPN.com, on the bubble, the last 4 in, Oklahoma, Indiana, Xavier, and Ohio State.
You guys surprised?
A little bit.
Indiana's team 66? They're a lot closer to the bubble than I feel like people think, at least in Joe Lunardi's eyes.
Well, it makes me ask the question to both of you, how big is this game against Oregon now as you're sitting there?
I kind of viewed it as it was a win to get you out of Dayton. I mean, it's a quad 1 neutral court win, which is great for your resume. But, boy, if you lose and then you have, what,
then
2 bid steals?
I was
3
gonna
bid
say.
steals? And this is a weird year where, we aren't getting really any mid-major bid stealing. Gonzaga, for example, won their conference tournament last night. That's good for Indiana. But you know where the bid stealing could happen? The Big East starts today, Butler at 4 o'clock, and the ACC. They only are, the ACC right now is projected to have, 3 teams in?
Yeah, I think they're talking right now about, probably Duke, Clemson, and
Louisville?
Louisville, that's it.
And if you look at Lunardi's, next 4 out or first 4 out, it's North Carolina, it's Wake Forest, Texas in the SEC. Texas, if they go on any run in the SEC tournament, that's filled with quad 1 neutral court wins. So, boy, I was surprised to see Indiana that close to the bubble for Joe Lunardi. And remember, this is a week where bids don't grow. They only shrink. And Indiana State learned that the hard way last year.
This is where I feel like IU fans are like, who is this Joe Lunardi guy? Who is he? What does he have to say about my team? And so, as we've said before, though, you're in a position where you can kind of control your own destiny. So get some revenge on Oregon, get safely into the tournament, and obviously keep going to the Big Ten tournament if you can. But, I think it's one of those things where you can't really point the finger too much because you have an opportunity right in front of you. You're not looking for help. Beat the people in front of you.
Yeah,
that's
and
what you got to do.
It says neutral court. Obviously, it will be a raucous Indiana environment tomorrow. And James, I think you guys on the Athletic, your bracket guy also had Indiana as one of the last 4 in. So again, a little surprising to me that they are, in this Dayton area. So tomorrow, massive at noon.
All right, coming up in just a moment, we'll take another look back at that thrilling victory for the Indiana Pacers at home over the Milwaukee Bucks last night. It's the Fan Morning Show. James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton, Jeff Rickard, right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Last night, the great Mark Boyle on the call. You heard it right here on The Fan. The Pacers over the Milwaukee Bucks, both now identical records, 36-28. Pacers have a couple of days off. They'll play Philadelphia. And then on the second night of a back-to-back in a couple of days, they take on the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's going to be a big, big game. It will determine who wins the season series. And top 4 spots get home court advantage in that first round, KB. That's what we're playing for at this point in time.
Boy, one of the crazier regular season moments inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I mean, that was just such a climactic moment. You know, the opponent, the magnitude of the game. I mean, Rick Carlisle, I think he indirectly told us with Tyrese Haliburton not playing on Monday night, playing last night, what that game meant for the Pacers. And for him to have, I would say, a pretty quiet night, James, up until that point. You know, I really didn't think we had gotten, you know, Haliburton's kind of full impact. I know he had a big assist night, but certainly from a scoring standpoint, hadn't got there. And that shot and just the origin of that play itself from Jenny Busick, you know, thinking about this from her flag football days, as crazy as that sounds, and her conversations with Sue Bird, and Rick mentioned after the game, Mike Weiner's put some tweaks on it. For that play to work like that, pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's one of those plays where if it was on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium, you're seeing a flag on the field because it's a rub route, pick play, but it's very hard to guard when you have that many bodies moving at that speed.
Well, the Bucks were confused as hell. They had 2 guys go with Neesmith, and really no one went with Haliburton until Giannis came out of that free safety spot.
Too late.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to see, you know, it's a copycat league, you know, what other teams try to pick it up and implements it, and obviously it really gets highlighted even more because they did it in the East Conference Finals last year. It didn't work, but obviously when it does work, the attention around the play will certainly expand even more.
Couple of things. I love the court last night. I love when they pull that court out. I like that.
You like that?
I do like that court.
Solid.
Also, does anybody in the league complain more than Lopez? Like, he's just mad about everything. He's whining about everything all night long for the Bucks.
Probably Mathurin.
You think?
Well,
or Sabonis, or LeBron, or Luka, or I think every team has probably one player that could.
But at least be a superstar if you're going to whine, right?
I mean, the way I look at it, you can. It's almost like with fans too. Like, there's just certain. Every team has one of this. It's kind of how I look at it with the complaining to the refs and all that. But the bottom line is, another Pops line for you, KB. The ref can't, you know, dictate the ball goes in or out of the net. So when Haliburton hits that shot, it is what it is.
Well, and one thing, too, about that play, for, you know, when we've had Rick Carlisle on, you know, Rick obviously is, I mean, is he the longest tenured coach in the league? I know I'd have to look that up. I mean, from an active win standpoint, he's, you know, continues to rise in that list. But I think one thing that impresses me when you have older head coaches that have been around for a while is, are you adaptable? Do you grow with the times? The NBA game has changed a whole lot. They flash up those Pacers-Pistons Eastern Conference final scores from, you know, Carlisle years.
85-79.
If that. I mean, you got like first team to 70 won some of those games. It's horrifying to see some of the scores. And in this instance, you know, he clearly has been open-minded to, all right, end-of-game situations, you know, advancing the ball. I think sometimes what you've seen with some teams, and Carlisle's been one of these teams where there are moments where he doesn't want to advance it all the way. You want to get your guys kind of a running start. Obviously, in that instance last night, Nembhard, you know, inbounded it from the advancement point, but you started your guys all in the backcourt. It's the willingness to trust your staff, be innovative, be open-minded to different things. And it sounds wild when, and again, Jenny Busick described this. Caitlin Cooper had a great clip. It just covers the Pacers in a super in-depth way. She had her on her podcast, and she basically shared the story. And I think Rick might have said this to us last year when they ran it a couple times of this is a play that Jenny thought of from a flag football perspective. Jenny played flag football, and she thought of it from a flag football standpoint in discussing some things with Sue Bird back in her kind of WNBA days. And when you watch the play unfold, obviously the Bucks were confused, clearly. But, like, when you're running like that, you don't see in the NBA, you know, picks called. Obviously moving screens are called. But when guys are just kind of running like that, that never gets called. So you create, I think, chaos and stress for the defense. you create panic, and that allows for, some unorthodox ways to have a final second shot. Whereas if you just ran your normal stuff in the half court, what would the Bucks have done? Well, everybody just switch. I mean, that's what teams typically do in those situations. And clearly that didn't work last night when you did, you kind of threw a different wrinkle at them. So outstanding X's and O's, and certainly Haliburton did the rest.
Well, let's talk about that execution because, JB, we've been talking about the shot, and it was pure, and it hits nothing but net. But the degree of difficulty really on that shot, he's moving hard left towards the corner, and he kind of, and Reggie Miller pointed this out, he kind of has to shoot it back to his right a little bit because he's moving so quickly to the left. That was kind of a tough shot.
Not kind of. It was a tough shot. I mean, that was a big-time shot-making ability, but also I think it's one of those things where, like I said earlier, my guy was just better than your guy. Like, I don't think you can defend it that much better. Obviously, you don't want to foul if you're Milwaukee, but that's a shot most times NBA teams are going to say, I'm okay with that shot.
I'll live with it, yeah.
Exactly. And so they died with it last night because Haliburton certainly stuck the dagger in him with that one. And so exciting time. I was downtown last night. I was actually not at the game visiting one of my friends in town. However, the buzz, after those type of moments happen is huge. And so I can only imagine, I always think about this, KB and Jeff, is imagine if you're a kid going to your first Pacers game. And that's the moment you remember. I'm a Pacers fan for life after that.
Well, and also, too, not to get into the TV drama of it all, a lot of people watched the game last night that don't watch a lot of Pacers.
Yes, this is true.
Because it was on national TV. So I think that kind of adds to it. Obviously, the Reggie Miller courtside and John Haliburton going over to celebrate him is, kind of another, little movie scene to it. And I guess from the game itself, I mean, one thing that play did, it certainly quieted anything from an Andrew Nembhard standpoint late. I don't know, maybe it's a bigger storyline. I think Nembhard's been pretty poor here over the last month plus. I think in February especially, really shot it poorly. Just something to keep an eye on. Obviously, without Haliburton in the lineup, his role changes a whole lot and has over the last week or so. And certainly last year in the postseason, we saw unbelievable moments from Nembhard without Haliburton. But, I thought actually late there was a moment or two to go to Matherin, offense for defense, instead of Nembhard. Now, of course, they had Nembhard in to inbound the ball, and certainly he does other things, but, he missed his 2 open threes. He misses the free throw. I mean, you almost had, 2 of the last 3 games, the Pacers miss a tying free throw in the last 20 seconds. Turner Saturday night in Atlanta, and then Nembhard last night. That would have been excruciating there. So the Haliburton shot does cover up some of that other stuff.
Well, it worked. 115-114. The Pacers get the win, and they are dead level with the Bucks for that 4th spot in the Eastern Conference standings right now. Coming up in a moment, we'll take a trip around the rest of the country. Some pretty interesting stories taking place. One of them has KB really sad this morning. We'll talk about it next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yes, you are, along with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton, who is doing the happy dance today because he won the backup quarterback sweepstakes that we all had the draft last week, and he chose Daniel Jones. And lo and behold, Daniel Jones is probably going to be your backup. Although James pointed out earlier, Mark, that if he gets the starting job, he's technically no longer the backup.
Yeah, but no one drafted Anthony Richardson, so suck on that.
So then nobody would win it.
No, I would win. I still have both quarterbacks. We all have Anthony Richardson by default.
Oh, is that how that works?
This is true.
Don't try to get out of it. You need to go.
I will be going to the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about your thought process there,
I
Mark,
blame
but I got you.
James for not taking the first overall pick. James had the opportunity.
Yeah, I literally fumbled away my opportunity. I threw an interception.
And what would you have had? What would your snack of choice have been?
It probably been something, not even a snack, just Capri Sun.
Yeah, Capri Sun. What about you, KB?
The red berry Capri Sun. I want Dunkaroos, and I want them now.
Well, win our next bet.
I feel like I might have to buy him Dunkaroos just cause.
I feel like our next draft is going to be who's going to be the IU head coach. That should be the next.
I like that one.
I like that one. Maybe that's
one.
tomorrow.
But none of that participation trophy stuff, Jeff. No
Okay.
Dunkaroos for this guy over here just because you're being nice.
You guys are harsh, and you have just taken over everything over there, which is fine.
Look, we are teaching
winner, chicken dinner.
Any kids listening to the show how to handle their business, okay? Max Bowen, if you're listening, no participation trophies.
I'm sure he is locked in. By the way, shout out to Purdue's Braden Smith. I want to make sure that we got to this.
Yep.
I know Bruce Weber's going to join us here coming up. About 10 minutes to talk a little Big Ten action. Mark, cue up this Matt Painter audio. I think the Braden Smith story is really an incredible one. And frankly, for Purdue to have 3 straight unanimous player of the years in the Big Ten, and you consider where Zach Edey and Braden Smith were in the recruiting rankings, is pretty damn impressive as well. This was Matt Painter. It's actually after the Illinois game, so the final regular season game of the year for the Boilers. Matt Painter was asked, I think Braden Smith was 1 rebound short of a triple-double, if I'm not mistaken. He was asked about Braden Smith's candidacy for the Big Ten Player of the Year.
He's been great. You know, in my opinion, he's the best player in this league. They call it the most valuable player, right? He's pretty valuable. Like, who rebounds like him, who gets assists like him, who scores like him. You know, leads the league in steals or second in steals. Like, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. For a guy that had 1 high major offer, he's damn good. I think he'll play 10 years in the NBA. I think he's fabulous. He affects winning on both ends of the court.
Just your old-fashioned get on the floor and just be a hard-nosed basketball player that's pretty good at everything.
Well, and he's extraordinarily skilled, too. You know, like, we had this debate a few weeks ago. You know, someone, hey, do you see T.J. McConnell in him? I'm like, okay, like, do we have to just make the obvious, like, you know, 5'10" to 6 foot white stereotype, like, comp with players? You know, we do this all the time with players and races and sizes and all of that. But Braden Smith is damn skilled. Have you seen the man dribble? Have you seen the man shoot? Have you seen the man finish at the rim? Have you seen his mid-range game? Like, let's not lose sight of that. Not to mention, as Matt Painter points out, he's a great rebounder for a player his size as well. So just a hat tip to the Braden Smith story. A hat tip to Matt Painter, you know, and that recruitment. I mean, it's the only high major offer. Painter's told this story before. Purdue had a kid decommit in the previous spring, and they thought as a staff, you know, okay, is this the time? We've thought about the Westfield point guard a whole lot. It was during COVID. You know, is he, you know, worthy of this type of offer? And, you know, a lot of times you don't see, you know, a lot of times you see the offers like rise up through the Big Ten. You know, like Northwestern will offer first, Iowa will offer first, and then the bigger programs come. But no, Matt Painter went out of his way, and the rest is history.
Sure was fun to watch him in high school at Westfield. That's for sure.
He was the 9th overall player in the state of Indiana his senior year, behind guys like C.J. Gunn, Fletcher Lawyer, Jalen Washington, who's now in North Carolina, and he is the best of all of them.
I think Matt Painter said one time, like, Trey Holloman at Michigan State was the other one he was kind of debating about offering. But, yeah, Jameel Brown decommitted now. I mean, if you look at his career, it's just funny how those stories play out. I think Matt was on with us maybe last year before their Crossroads Classic game. He told the Zach Edey recruitment of was it Matt Harms? I think went to BYU. That opened up a scholar. It's just crazy how, you know, all of this can happen, and then boom, the domino effect leads to a plan B and a plan C. And Braden Smith, your Big Ten Player of the Year, that announced yesterday.
Sometimes plan C is the best you can get. All right, let's check some things outside our area right now. Kevin, you mentioned it briefly. I know you're sad about it today. You're carrying it around. Tiger Woods going to miss 4 to 6 months of any kind of golf because he tore his Achilles tendon? What's going on there? That's not good for a 49-year-old.
Yeah, sad, honestly. I think it's a disservice to my emotions, frankly. I would appreciate a little bit more empathy from you on that. Can we get him a golf cart at Augusta next month?
I mean, if he's up
They
for
need to
it.
make an exception.
Come on.
Yeah.
Go back to Casey Martin days?
Haven't I done enough for this sport? Give me a
I
card,
think
damn it.
so.
Ever since that logo changed to that whatever that Ray logo that he has on, that looks like
That's
his
what it
body.
was?
It just looks like a bunch of broken bones put together. That's
Oh,
the new Tiger
man.
body.
That's what it was.
It should be just the Jackass logo, the skull and crossbones with the crutches. That's what it should be for Tiger Woods'
Mark,
logo.
My middle finger's up under the table right now. Are you?
We've been talking a lot about the Colts and all the moves they have made, coming up with guys like Daniel Jones, Charvarius Ward, Cam Bynum, but also some other guys making news out there. This is an interesting one. JB, you tell me, the Bills pick up Joey Bosa. He's going to be 30 years old. He's missed a lot of time lately. He's been banged up, and they're still going to pay him almost $13 million.
Yeah, he's still got something left in the tank, and I think, you have to keep that in mind. I believe Von Miller went somewhere else, didn't he? So
They released him.
There it
is. Yeah, so that's the replacement there, I would imagine. And so I look at it like, Joey Bosa is like, I'm trying to go win a championship, and a good guy to try to do that with is Josh Allen.
He's been a shell of himself the last couple of years, just availability.
First 6 years were great.
And production-wise,
Yeah.
so I'll be curious what's left in the tank for him.
Speaking of left in the tank, Leonard Floyd signs with the Falcons, KB, after leaving the 49ers. What are the Falcons getting there?
Boy, Leonard Floyd, I feel like he's been on a different team every year.
He signs like 1 year deals and is like on a new team every year.
I feel like this is like his 7th 1 year deal.
Look, I respect it, though. Go
Get
to
that
the
money.
highest bidder, hired mercenary. You have a very finite time to make some money in the NFL. I'm going. No loyalty. My loyalty is to the check number.
One other guy who's now playing on a different team every year towards the end of his career, and I don't even know what he's got left, DeAndre Hopkins to the
I thought he retired.
Ravens
Did I
on a
miss
1 year
something?
deal.
Yeah, you definitely missed something. But I missed this, too. I saw it because it was like, hey, they got two, potential future Hall of Famers together in those guys. But I view it similar to Joey Bosa. DeAndre Hopkins is like, all right, I did the Kansas City thing. I had a good run. I had a shot at Super Bowl. What if Lamar is the guy who can help me get to another one and try to win it? So I don't knock any of these guys for having a chance to or seeking a chance to win a championship. And to do that again, you're going to be with a dude at quarterback.
And Kevin, this is not the DeAndre Hopkins of the Arizona Cardinals 3 years ago. This is a different dude.
Yeah, obviously tried to, hitch his wagons there to the Chiefs and didn't really do a whole lot, I thought, for them. So, the Ravens have tried a ton of these guys, and we'll see if, this one plays out. Obviously, the big news AFC North-wise was certainly DK Metcalf going to the Steelers.
Yep. All right, so that's what's happening as far as the rest of the country is concerned. You mentioned a moment ago, Bruce Weber, one of my all-time favorite coaches. It was fun to watch him at Illinois, and he's going to be covering Big Ten basketball, the Big Ten tournament getting underway later on this afternoon over at Gainbridge. Of course, Indiana plays tomorrow at noon. Purdue plays in the evening game at 9 o'clock tomorrow, and they'll be taking on the winner of USC and Rutgers at that point in time. We'll talk about all of that, maybe even hear from you in the next hour as well, 239-1070. It's the Fan Morning Show. Mark Dykton on the ones and twos. Very happy today. Skipping into work today, as a matter of fact. KB is big sad. JB just rolling along with that big win last night, and I'm just hanging along everybody else right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Sticking with winning Wednesday, James Boyd, after that game last night?
I'm rocking with it. You got, Mark playing, Superstition, Stevie Wonder, and I'm, in my chair. I feel like I'm at the cookout with my family. So life is good.
All right. We got the Big Ten basketball tournament coming up later on today. Indiana, Purdue get in action tomorrow. Bruce Weber, one of my all-time favorite college basketball coaches, joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline, getting ready for the Big Ten tournament himself. Coach, thanks for being here on this Wednesday morning. How you doing?
I am doing fine. Just getting on a plane, headed to Indianapolis, and ready for an exciting 5 days of big-time basketball.
We can't wait. Things get underway coming up later today. Again, Indiana in action tomorrow at noon, Purdue tomorrow night at 9. Coach, not to hijack things, but I might shift it a little bit here to begin. Our talk in Indy this morning has been the heroics last night of one Tyrese Haliburton. I recall we had you on a couple years ago, so I apologize for probably asking you a similar question, but certainly our audience has changed a bit. What do you remember about that 2019 Team USA team? It was loaded that you coached. Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Green, et cetera, and also a kid from Iowa State named Tyrese Haliburton. What do you remember about coaching Tyrese?
Well, I kind of become a trivia question. I'm the only person that coached the first 5 picks in the NBA draft the following year, so I guess I wasn't that good of a coach. I had a lot of good players, but Tyrese Haliburton was, I had a chance to coach against him I was at Kansas State. He was at Iowa State freshman year, kind of came out of nowhere, didn't really score, but, was such a good distributor. His assist turnover ratio was astronomical. I think it set a record, if I remember back, for the percentage and so when he came to us, they knew him a little bit, but he didn't have the pub that the national guys did. That when you talked about Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes and Suggs and all the Cade Cunningham but he just kind of took it over and really could have been the MVP of our team. It ended up being another guy. It went down to 2 or 3 guys, but. I think more because a couple guys dunked it a little better or something, but he was our leader. He was our stability, and he just got better and better. And I've heard him talk many times. Obviously, Coach Frome did a great job with him at Iowa State, but his experience with USA basketball kind of just gave him the confidence that, hey, I'm good enough to play with these guys. And the next season, he had a great year until he got hurt, and then obviously he's continued on in the NBA. And just, I love him because he's a good quality person. He's Oshkosh, Wisconsin. His dad actually officiated my brother's high school games. My brother's a high school coach, or was in northern Wisconsin, and so just a regular, down to earth, good person. And just when you see guys have success like that, you feel really good about it. And I saw the shot last night. It's crazy, but that's what he can do. He can make shots. It's unbelievable.
James, I'm picturing the crazy John Haliburton as a high school official now. Is what what I'm seeing here.
I mean, he's got a lot of characters. I'm sure Coach Weber knows here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, I know you talked about Haliburton and his assist-turnover ratio. Another great point guard in college basketball currently is Braden Smith. He's really good at, distributing the ball, taking care of it. Big Ten Player of the Year, the 3rd straight for Purdue. What do you make of the jump he made from last year to this year and how he's leading this Purdue team?
Well, you just didn't know how he would deal without Big Zach. And, he drove in a lot of times, left his feet, which all coaches are – say, please don't do it, including Matt Painter, and then he would throw lobs to Zach. But he changed his game, and he became more a scorer. Not that he didn't distribute. He still was one of the top assist guys in the league, in the country. But he had to score more if they were going to have success, and he's really good off the ball screens. And, I've joked with him a couple times. I've been to practice since he arrived there, and I've had him in games and interviewed him, and his feel for the game is just unbelievable. And he just, this year he's kind of added that pocket pass. He just has a good timing on when to pass and how to get it to people, and playing that two-man game with Trakoff and Red. He's so successful, and he's a little feisty on defense too. I don't think people give him as much credit as he should get credit for on the defensive end. But there's something about Indiana high school kids. My 45 years, 50 years, whatever, of being involved in college basketball. When I first arrived at Indiana in the late 70s and at Purdue and started watching high school basketball, the coaching is so good, the feel is good, and Braden definitely has that good feel of the game.
It's great. Bruce Weber joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. He is off to Indy. Big Ten Network will have a ton of coverage here coming up. That's where you're going to catch Indiana and Purdue both tomorrow as they get things started. Coach, I've been thinking about this, and I'm like, boy, it sounds like a dumb question when I say it out loud. As a coach, obviously you're coaching to win, but did you find any benefit or maybe weirdness to the conference tournament when you didn't necessarily have to put wear and tear on your tires, 3 games in 3 days, 4 games in 4 days, or do you view it as, no, you're trying to win the exclusive Big Ten tournament title and you can build momentum into March?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of both. I still remember walking down the tunnel after Purdue lost last year, and Matt was not very happy, and he thought maybe the kids listened to too much social media, that they didn't need to, win, and it was okay, and I still remember him talking about it, and he was not happy. He wanted to win, and just didn't feel like their guys were engaged like they needed to, and made mistakes, and but it ended up okay for them, but I've seen it the other way too. Illinois was a great example last year, going to win the tournament, making it all the way to the Elite Eight, obviously running into the one that beat everybody, UConn. So I think you can, if you had a grinding season, you don't have much depth, if you got to play 4 days in a row or 3 days in a row, it takes a toll. There's no doubt, especially if you play on Thursday that following week. You don't have quite the rest, but, at the same time, you can get that momentum and feel good about yourself. It's not like to me, I'd rather win a conference tournament or conference championship than the tournament. But once you get there, the juices get flowing, the players get excited, you get the feel of the NCAA tournament. Yeah, you get excited. There's no doubt, and the guys want to win, and I think everybody's disappointed when they don't continue to play and get to the championship. It's another chance to prove yourself, and that's what you're doing, and that's why you're playing.
Bruce Weber, Big Ten Network, joining us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline, getting ready for the Big Ten tournament over at Cambridge over the next couple of days. From your perspective right now, Coach, who is Indiana basketball right now? They've been playing better of late. They had the big couple of shots and a nice win the other day. But going into the tournament, who is this team? What can we expect?
I think it's so hard to predict early, and everyone predicted them. You had so many new guys. But you did have veterans, and you thought, hey, they got enough talent here to be, a contender, if not one or two, up in the top. And obviously they struggled. They didn't have the right mix. I think Coach Woodson, and I'm going to give him credit, once he kind of figured it out to play more small ball, and I always talked about it, that when they were playing two bigs, and sometimes I call him Baco, even though he can shoot the three, but on the defensive end, he struggles guarding guards. That they struggled, and once they went more to the small ball lineup and kind of rotating the two bigs and mixing in Mbako at the 4 and then at the 3, they're a good ball club. I mean, they've proven it. I'm sure if you're Michigan State, they already beat you at Lansing not that long ago. So, they'd be thinking about it. But they are playing a really good team that's playing really well right now. And Dana Altman's magical in February and March. I mean, you look at his record, what he's done, and I faced him even way back when we were at Southern Illinois, and he was at Creighton. We'd win the conference championship, and he'd win the tournament. And he has a knack of getting guys to play at a high level, so that should be a fun game to start out the tournament.
He is the former gold medalist winning coach there with Tyrese Haliburton, helped running the show for Team USA back in the day. That's where we began with Bruce Weber, and obviously a ton of Big Ten talk for the former Purdue assistant and Illinois head coach, and he is coming to Indy for Big Ten tournament as things get underway here later today. Coach, safe travels, and as always, thank you for the time. Terrific insight.
Oh, it's good to be on, and hopefully we'll talk to you in the next couple of weeks with tournament, and you got some Purdue and Indiana, you got people watching because they're still playing. That would be fun.
You bet. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Bye.
That's Bruce Weber right there, Payless Liquors Hotline. If I pose to you guys the Big Ten team that's the last standing in March into April, you would say who?
At the end of this tournament?
Or end of it all. The NCAA tournament, who's the last standing?
Michigan State. It's hard for me to choose against Tom Izzo. I mean, it would be fun to see one of the Indiana teams go on a run, and obviously Purdue, with the success they had with Zach Edey last year, kind of proving themselves without him this year. But, man, it just seems like Tom Izzo squeezes the life out of every team that he has, and they come to play this time of the year.
I'm going to go contrarian just because you said Michigan State.
I like it.
I'll go Maryland. Maryland's kind of a wild card team to me. When they're playing their best, they can play with just about anybody.
Well, they had some guards, made some big plays in that game in Bloomington earlier this year. I point to Bruce Weber's old team. Like, what the hell, James Boyd, is your Fighting Illini?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I didn't pick him.
The biggest loss in school history. And then there's other moments I watch them, and I'm like, man, I feel like they've got some pieces.
Yeah, I mean, the shot making against Purdue the other day was pretty nice. But, again, they're so up and down that I'm like, I can't trust them to be –
to put together a streak?
Yeah, to even be hot enough to have a streak. I mean, they could be night and day.
Yeah. I might go counter to all of you guys. I think it's a little bit of a different new era up in Madison. I'll go Wisconsin.
Okay.
That's where I was leaning, Kev.
I'm really interested to see what this freshman who I've watched a couple of times this year fascinates me, Derek Queen. I think he's one of those guys that could get on a run here as a freshman.
I love Dairy Queen. Such good ice cream.
This is true.
Just had it the other day.
This is true. Blizzards for the win.
Are you changing your
Mark,
snack?
just be happy with what you're going to get here. Don't be too gready. It is funny. Like, you just hear all of our answers, though, and I think it's difficult.
It's wide open.
Yeah. I think it's kind of and I think it's a wide open Big Ten tournament. I don't know. I haven't seen any odds on it, but I would venture to guess it doesn't have the feel of Purdue walking in as the 1 seed each of the last couple of years. So should be some great times over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Reminder today, things will get underway with, I guess, what you would call maybe the play-in format of the Big Ten tournament. 15 of the 18 teams are here. So at 4 o'clock today, you'll get Northwestern and Minnesota. 6:30, Iowa and Ohio State. Ohio State fighting for a bid. And USC and Rutgers at 9 o'clock. And again, Purdue will see the winner of that last game tomorrow, likely at 9 o'clock, whereas IU and Oregon, they are in that noon slot. The winner will get Sparty.
I want to go back to something Bruce Weber said about Oregon, and he brings up a really good point. Oregon's they may not have all the depth in the world, but they got a really good big man. They rebound the ball well, and they shoot the three well. And Dana Altman always has his teams playing pretty decent basketball in March. That could be a big problem when you add all that stuff up.
Yeah, and the Shellstad kid, I mean, he's done it all year. I know Indiana fans certainly have major PTSD from what he did at the end of the game the other night. And I'll be curious to see how they handle tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be a much different atmosphere, of course, than what it was, a couple weeks ago. And we talked about this earlier. My line of thinking on Indiana and the bubble, it kind of was, hey, this loss is not going to hurt them on the resume. It would be a neutral court, quad 1 loss. That doesn't hurt your resume. Actually, every Indiana loss this season will be a quad 1 loss, whenever they lose in the Big Ten tournament, I guess, if they lose in the Big Ten tournament. So that's pretty unique to have that. But to see them pop up, and, James, you guys in The Athletic had Indiana as one of the last 4 in. Joe Lunardi's got them as one of the last 4 in. I figured they were in, and this was a game to cement them out of Dayton. Whereas it feels like if they were to lose this, and we see a couple of bid steals, just a couple, you could be sweating it a whole lot more in Bloomington come Sunday at 6 o'clock.
That's why taking care of business during the regular season is so important. You don't want to leave it down to somebody winning a conference tournament that wasn't supposed to be there and knocking you off a perch.
100%. And I look at IU and Oregon tomorrow, like, you get your lick back. So, you see that bully that kind of knocked you off a few days ago, gave you some heartbreak, and Shellstad, you get to go back at him again in that team and, get a little revenge.
And you two will be kissing babies and signing autographs in the building tomorrow. Is that right?
That's right. We'll be down there and just buying popcorn and living it up. And
slamming
I was
beers.
about to say, you know how I feel about babies. So I don't know about the kissing babies part, but I'll hold and take a picture.
Hey, man, if someone throws the baby in your arms, you got to hold that thing and take the picture.
No, I got to stop here.
Man.
What do you mean? We know how you feel about babies.
Oh, I just don't want kids. That's all. Like I love babies when they're not mine.
So there's a lot of promos running on this station that you can get that taken care of, and you don't have to worry about it.
This is very true, but
Especially in the month of March,
I think my mom would be a little, disappointed if I got that done before having the first kid.
What does Bobby Boucher say? What mama don't know
there
can't
you
hurt her.
I mean, you're talking, 5 kids between the two of these guys here and 2 more with me, so you're in the room with 7 kids here.
There you go. But I'm looking forward to, seriously, the game tomorrow, being out there. Me and Jeff will be there. It'll be fun. Just hope the Colts don't sign anybody during the game, so I have to be on my phone the entire time.
You gonna take your laptop?
Nah, I can write from my phone, but, knock on wood that, I get to see a good game.
Kevin was going to go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of the Colts in a move, what do you think's left? Do you view it as cap space wise they've got enough for one more big one, or do you view it as the baseball analogy at more singles?
I think it's more singles at this point because you've made so many big moves you just haven't made in the past. And so when you look at, and even just some of the moves that have made over the last couple of days, after the Daniel Jones thing, it was Wesley French, it was Danny Pinter bringing back the depth at center. And so I would expect more of those moves, maybe one more starting caliber player, but again, not a high-profile, high-price player.
It feels like maybe some depth at defensive line, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I would even push towards, and I know you rotate a lot there, but I would push towards a guy that could challenge for a starting spot, on that defensive line. But I think for the most part, I'm with James. The Commanders had this type of offseason last year where they had to kind of shift to do a bunch of kind of one-year guys that added competition across the roster. I kind of think that is now kind of happening because I do say this in all seriousness, like, right guard I think is a definite battle, but like, where are the starting battles? I'm
quarterback.
I'm still a little bit confused by that. Where is that true competition? Like, it almost seems like you've just kind of let guys walk and bring guys in, which is a change. Let me be clear. But, like, is there real competition? And maybe that'll come from the draft picks. Maybe they're going to view the draft picks as guys that can come in here and instantly compete. But, again, in-house-wise, your starters, Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Granson, Julian Blackmon, E.J. Speed. Those are your starters yet to have found a home in free agency.
What do you think will happen with E.J. Speed? Is he gone?
I think he's gone, most likely.
And, again, that's one of those of, like, do you bring him back and say, hey, you and Jalen Carlisle figure it out? Or
I wouldn't mind that.
But again, because that's more the battle. James, I
there's
think
your competition.
You had one more thought, James. I wanted to make sure that we got to, I think, on a little bit of how I looked at those starting battles.
Yeah, I looked at it like this. I know you've preached the competition aspect, and it's kind of not you preaching it, really just piggybacking off what Chris Ballard said, but I think we can't overlook the fact that they just have glaring holes in their roster. So sometimes it's like, yeah, you want more competition, you want guys competing, but if you can go out and get a top dog, you do it. And so, for example, I don't know if I really would trade off like having more competition at free safety or just going out and getting one that I believe can be the guy. Competition to me is not only like inner when it comes to the positions themselves, but also the entire team. When this guy walks in, we know what he's done, where he's been, who he's played for, and what success he's had. And that, to me, should bring more competitive fire out of the group. And so, similar to maybe what DeForest Buckner did when he got traded here. Like, everyone knew when DeForest Buckner got traded to the Colts, this dude was just in the Super Bowl, and if you remember that game, if the 49ers win that game, he might win MVP.
Yeah, he was a stud.
That's how great he was in that game. And so you're getting other guys who've been to the mountaintop, been in big moments, had success, and I think that can also be a layer of competition besides just the typical head-to-head.
Man, I'm watching this Haliburton shot again. It was so good. just the sprint
That
to
is
the
so hard.
left.
I mean, but to square up as he's moving as quickly as he is.
Just the degree of difficulty on the shot. And that was like the first thing Reggie Miller said. And think about that. That's Reggie Miller. I mean, you want to talk about taking some awkward, unorthodox shots in his career.
So what you're saying is I got to go to the basement after this and try to.
Oh, you can't try that.
This.
You would smoke the ceiling.
Yeah, I'll probably
go down there and feed you.
I take a light out.
I'll just keep feeding you the basketball till you hit it.
I mean, it might be there for a while, Jeff.
They do have little pads towards the back wall there, so you're good.
It's a tough shot by a great player, but again, those are the moments that define good from great to me. Like, you're an All-NBA caliber player, you're a superstar, you're on the max contract. Those guys make those kind of shots.
That's what you do. All right, let's check the check down here on a Wednesday morning, a winning Wednesday for the Indiana Pacers.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Women's Basketball Invitation Tournament. Elevate the game at the WBIT, coming to Hinkle Fieldhouse March 31st and April 2nd.
Kevin, you're down 3 at home against a team you absolutely have to beat. Time's running down. No problem, right? You don't have to worry about anything. You got Tyrese Haliburton on your team.
Well, and Andrew Nembhard give him a big old bear hug when he sees him again today for what happened late last night. The heroics from Haliburton, absolutely speechless there. Again, down 3, as Jeff said. That'll hit the 3, but then after a lengthy review, I guess it was just for the foul, although TNT was pretty confused on that. Indeed, Giannis did foul him. Made the free throw, and then Giannis got off a decent look at the end. I know it was not, maybe a high percentage shot by Giannis, but he got pretty quickly down the length of the floor. Pacers get a big one, so now they will have 2 days off, at Philly Friday, at Milwaukee on Saturday, and that will decide the head-to-head tiebreaker between these two teams coming up this season.
Pacers inbound from forecourt. They have all 4 of the other players in the backcourt. Inbound will come far side hash mark, Nembhard. The 4 in the back start inching their way to the timeline. Lopez will challenge the inbound. 3 9/10 to play. Nembhard will get it in. Here comes a 3 and a foul! A foul! A foul! As Haliburton, floating out of bounds in front of the Milwaukee bench, hits a 3 and draws a foul.
I can't get enough of that Mark Boyle call. I had to hear it again, KB.
The floating out of bounds is such a great description. James Boyd, I'll put your Doc Rivers hat on for you. How do you defend it differently? Do you just zone it?
I think if you look at the replay, there was a time where Giannis kind of went down as if the 2 would hurt him, and it wouldn't in that situation.
Giannis was a little late getting out there.
Yeah, so he probably just needs to stay attached. But, again, that's a great shot. And what I loved about it is you hit it in front of their bench, and you get to sit down and look up at them like, y'all know y'all finna take this L. That was a fun moment for Haliburton.
Where's Patrick Beverly to throw a ball at Pacers fans, right?
While we're talking about basketball in Indiana and Indianapolis specifically, over at Corteva, it was Robert Morris finishing off a big season for them in the Horizon League. They knock off Youngstown in the finals, 89-78. They beat Youngstown State, and number 1 seed doing what they're supposed to do, so no bid stealers coming out of the Horizon.
And Bobby Moe, big second half for them. I thought Oakland was going to win it the other night, but they were able to pull that out in overtime. First ever Horizon League championship game. They've lost 1 game in the last 2 months. On the women's side, it was Green Bay over Fort Wayne, 76-63. Tied at halftime, but the Mastodons could not get it done. Speaking of local teams, we will get Butler in action today. They got Providence out in Madison Square Garden. 4 o'clock game. Winner will get St. John's. Butler a slight favorite. By the way, announcement we did see earlier this week that Thad Matta will be back for a 4th season. Certainly has been a disappointing year for the Bulldogs. Great recruiting class coming in. I had some questions if Thad Matta would retire. We've seen a lot of coaches kind of in his era, or certainly with his resume, hang it up here. But Thad Matta will be back for a 4th season at Butler, and we'll see if any Hinkle magic inside of Madison Square Garden this week.
All right. Big Ten tournament starts a little bit later on today and again tomorrow, 9 o'clock for Purdue. They'll take on the winner of USC and Rutgers, and then noon, as we talked about, you and I will be over at the Indiana-Oregon game and hoping that Indiana can keep this little mini run going here.
Yeah, I'll let you all give you all tease. I got something I'm going to wear tomorrow. And I'm curious to just see the reaction from people.
Well, at least unlike Kevin, you're
the
wearing
Oregon
something.
Duck. Did DeForest Buckner give you the Oregon Duck costume? Is that what you're wearing?
I'm not spilling. I'm not spilling, but you will see tomorrow.
Now, he is wearing a shirt, though, Kevin, just so you know.
Is there a reason why you guys haven't brought up the big Notre Dame game today? I've kind of been waiting on the check down for others to kind of bring it up.
Because you wore the shirt, I figured you would pick up the mantle and carry the ball.
I don't want to brag anymore. It was a great win for the Irish. I thought an excellent call to end the game. Clearly a foul on Tay Davis. Shout out to the Warren Central product for going to the line and hitting the game-winning free throw. 1 down, 4 to go. Did North Carolina State do it last year?
It happened.
Right?
It happened.
In the ACC tournament?
You got to be careful because Kevin Keith's getting fired at the end of the year for North Carolina State. How about that? You go to the Final Four the next year, things don't go well, you miss the ACC tournament, and boom, you get your walking papers.
It's a hell of a 12 months. I believe on the other side, Mark Dykton, do we have some international calls of the Tyrese Haliburton shot?
Little international flavor, yeah.
That'll be fun.
Now, this is the benefit of when you're on national TV, you get some other outlets calling your games. These calls are outstanding. I cannot wait to hear these.
All right, we'll do that all next as we continue. It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, here on a Wednesday morning.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark's been playing this on loop since Daniel Jones signed with, or not signed, agreed to terms with the Colts.
There you go.
I get down with the Spice Girls, sure.
Yeah.
Spice Girls cover band at the Vogue this past week. I think it was maybe a couple weekends ago. My sister-in-law went. She was giddy about it.
You didn't go?
I did not.
No.
I was there in spirit. I can get down with the Spice Girls. Mark, that was excellent.
Well, I figure we're doing some international flavor here.
This
so
is
why
great.
don't we go international with it?
So the Pacers tweeted this out. It's 3 clips. We have a Portuguese call of the Haliburton shot, a Korean call, and a Spanish call.
Love it.
Again, national TV last night for the Pacers, so you get some other broadcasts of it. Mark, let's go in order here, and we'll vote for our favorite. What do we have up first?
Be Portuguese.
Okay.
Here we go.
The Brazilian call?
Yes.
Okay.
Vem aí, Haliburton de 3. Caiu!
E a falta?
3 pontos e a falta!
See, I like that one because they have soccer out there. So
I
they're
feel
a
like
little
Brazil,
soccer feel.
I feel like Brazil just won the World Cup.
They did.
That's what I feel like.
All right,
Okay,
so-
now what's up next?
This is Korea.
일제히 달려가죠.
3.9초. 자, 할리버튼인데요.
할리버튼 던집니다.
와! 들어갔습니다.
반칙이에요, 반칙. 이야!
와, 말도 안 되는 샷입니다.
아니 이게 어떻게 되는 거예요? 와!
야, 이거 할리버튼의 몸에 레지 밀러가 들어가 있네요.
그러니까요.
Did I hear a Reggie Miller in there?
I think he did.
Wow.
I think it's clear there is one international thing that just works everywhere, and that's, oh! when somebody does something, right?
샷입니다.
That is. All right, last but not least.
The last one is Spanish. Here we go.
3 segundos 9 décimas. Cerrando espacios, López. Ahí viene el disparo. ¡Uy! ¡Mire lo que sucedió! En forma apretada, señoras y señores. De una forma incómoda aparece Haliburton para poner justamente el marcador. ¿De qué forma, señoras y señores? En tablas. En tablas. Siento.
There you go.
I should brush up on my Spanish so I could.
A lot of ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I'm going to vote for the Korean one.
That's where I'm going.
I like that too.
Yeah.
We got a sweep then.
Yeah,
Sweep?
I
All of
thought
us?
Portuguese was going to take it, but Korea
No, Korea owned it.
with the Reggie Miller.
Still, and I still take the Mark Boyle, though.
I think the Spanish clip is just, they are used to basketball in that country, you know, and I think on a more of a grand scale. So that one to me was just a little bit more subdued.
말도 안 되는 샷입니다.
Than the
Reggie Miller. Play it all.
The Korean one. So are they all in the building?
I do
No,
know.
I don't think so. Are
No,
they?
probably
but
not.
I do know for like some of the
I mean,
national
the in-stadium
games.
sounds supernatural.
No, I do know for some of the national games they will have like an international reporter travel because I want to say in the playoffs you can ask Tony East about it. They'll have like a person come up to you and say, "Hey, are you covering this game tonight? Can you get your thoughts on it?" It'll be like ESPN China or whatever. So I do know that occasionally there will be somebody there. I don't know about last night.
Yeah,
but it's not like something that just never happens. They do have international travel.
Interesting.
I would guess that's in a studio somewhere, but if so, as
Yeah,
Kevin
considering
points
it's like
out,
the
sound
Korean
was
call,
really
I
good.
probably guess it's in the studio somewhere. But nevertheless, I mean,
It's
how
good.
about the excitement there? I just like to hear the scream because that's what we all do. Like, if you think of your favorite sports
1000%.
moment when your team or your
Yes.
guy made a shot, all you did was just yell.
It's the raw emotion that you cannot script whatsoever. Our Jiffy Lube stat of the day is indeed this. Tyrese Haliburton's 4-point play with 3 seconds remaining gave the Pacers the W last night. He finished with 14 and 10 assists. That's his 22nd double-double with assists this season. That broke a tie for the third most in Pacers franchise history, with Haliburton already owning the top 2 spots. The record before Tyrese came to Indiana was 21, set by who? Point, assist, double-doubles. Anyone want to take a gander at who had the Pacers franchise record?
Mark Jackson?
Mark Jackson is the guess of James Boyd.
I don't know. I'll go Paul George.
Paul George? Mark Dykton, you want to throw one in there?
I don't want to piggyback off James, but Mark Jackson was the first one that came to my mind, so I guess I'm going to go Mark Jackson.
Mark Dykton, I believe you have guessed this person recently with a correct answer.
Oh, well, now you're testing my brain against myself, and that's not good.
So is this
Honestly, I would have maybe made a bit of a long shot guess at like Jamal Tinsley. I don't know if he ever was healthy for enough of a season or behaving for enough of a season to qualify, but I would have gone there. Mark Vern Fleming.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yep.
I like that.
Vern Fleming there in the 87-88 season had 21.
Kind of, you think about it and you go, okay, that makes sense, but I don't know that you'd have ever gone there initially, would you?
Jiffy Lube since 1985. Your place for oil changes here in the state of Indiana.
Real quick, what's the best game winner you all have seen? Like whether it's in person or on TV. Like, for example, I remember where I was when Damian Lillard killed the Thunder with like a 50-foot shot or whatever to win it, and I remember thinking, this is incredible.
I would say one of my louder screams was, and ironically it was in somewhat of an empty arena, was the Jalen Suggs shot in the Final Four.
Oh, yeah.
Over at Lucas Oil.
Yeah.
The
Fun
shot
fact,
and then jumping on the scores table. Just that moment in general.
Fun fact, state boys basketball was going on. It went to overtime for Class 4A, and I was over at, I want to say it was like, did they play at Lucas Oil? They played somewhere
Yeah.
like,
The Final Four was at Lucas Oil, yeah.
So we were over at Gamebridge, and he hits the shot, and everyone goes to scream, and like there's Kyle Neddenrep doing like a Zoom call with some kid who just lost like the Class 4A finals. We got to shut up because we're going crazy. And like, so we were watching like the live overtime game of like the Class 4A.
Because it was the late game.
It was the last one of the night. Went to overtime. So we're watching like these kids play, but we're all like kind of like looking back at the screen to see what's going on over, down the street.
Mine was Javi Baez's walk-off home run against the Reds,
sure.
where he was just MFing the relief pitcher on the Reds as he was doing it. Oh, that was petty, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah, as much as it pained me, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a walk-off home run for me. The first game I ever went to in my entire life was a Johnny Bench, bottom of the 12th, 2-run shot. And I don't know that for a little kid going to his first Major League Baseball game, I don't know that I've ever felt anything quite like that since. So
Yeah, I think cracking a walk-off is probably better than a game winner in basketball just because, like, there's nothing like when you hear that crack of the bat, it's over. Like, that has to be a crazy feeling. And
well, the silence right before the pitch.
Yeah.
And then so you get that moment. Honestly, you feel that with Haliburton the ball in the air last night. Of like you can.
It's like an eternity.
Obviously, you can't hear the horn because it was 3 seconds to go. But you have those moments that I think just make sports so special.
It wasn't a game winner, but one of the moments that stands out that always like replays in my mind is, do you remember like years ago the Jose Bautista go ahead and run?
Was that
and
the
bat
monster
flip?
shot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That highlight is so
and
great.
I think
too.
here locally, I mean, Reggie's shot against MJ in the Eastern Conference Finals. You have that moment where like the Bulls are like walking towards the tunnel. Now they actually put time, I think, back on the clock, and MJ almost hit the game winner on the other. That's what I was thinking when all of a sudden Giannis got the head of steam last night. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What about Nembhard against the Lakers a few years ago in LA?
Or Nembhard against the Knicks.
That too as well. I remember just having Quinn Buckner and like the local. That's the one thing last night I was like, man, like obviously we had Mark Boyle, but just I would love to.
Denary went nuts. Did you see him hug Haliburton
I
as he
did
was
see
walking
that.
off?
I was like, there we go. It's fun to see, guys sort of break that fourth wall every now and then. And, he tells us all the time how grateful he is to be having that job and working that job. So it was cool to see that emotion.
And then Cam chimes in here, obviously the watch shot. When you think I was in the arena for that. That was December 2011. Obviously Kentucky was ranked number 1. Selfishly, one thing that I loved about that, I worked for the Indiana Daily Student at the time. Darius Miller was the man closing out on Watford. He wore number 1 for Kentucky, and the front cover of the IDS that next day was the headline of Trampling number 1. And again, Kentucky was ranked number 1. Miller wore 1 on his jersey, and if you see the picture does it the full justice.
Yeah.
He literally, the IU players mob Watford so quickly that like Darius Miller's in the fetal position on the ground. It's a miracle like he got off the floor, not to mention obviously the court storming.
The other one for me that I was at, and it's you don't think about it as much in football, but one of the last great plays for Andrew Luck, remember the end of the season, last second touchdown against the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. I want to say it was maybe 2017, 2018.
Yeah, Luck went nuts, didn't he?
I mean, it was just a beautiful drive, and he finished it off, and the crowd was going crazy. And it was my son's first Colts game, so he was fired up too.
Telling you, man, sports are like, how can you not? How can you not? Like, this is giving me like chills to think about these moments and to know that we have more on the way, and perhaps who knows what happens with Indiana and Oregon tomorrow. Like Trey Galloway, you want to keep building some lore there.
It wasn't the last second, but that shot still gets the cackles of my neck going up there.
I know.
It's good stuff. All right, we're going to finish up strong on a winning Wednesday here in a moment. Pacers coming off a 115-114 victory over the Bucks. Shot, you could say, heard around the world now, right? We'll check it all out next as we continue at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
일제히 달려가죠. 3.9초. 자, 할리버튼인데요.
할리버튼
던집니다. 와! 들어갔습니다. 반칙이에요, 반칙. 이야! 와, 말도 안 되는 샷입니다. 아니, 이게 어떻게 되는 거예요? 와! 이야, 이거 할리버튼의 몸에 레지 밀러가 들어가 있네요. 그러니까요.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So many great calls of the Tyrese Haliburton game tying 3 last night, and then he put it over the top with the free throw and the 4-point play. Well, we got a lot of NFL coming up today. There's still a few big names out there. What, if anything, the Colts do? We'll be keeping an eye on that all day long. And James Boyd, I know you and KB just the last week, you just carry your laptops with you everywhere you go, right?
Yeah, this time last year, I was speaking on a panel at the State of the Times at the New York Times. So I was walking around Times Square with my backpack, and I literally sat down in the middle of Times Square because they signed a player, and I wrote about it. And so every little iconic spot you can think of in New York, I've probably written about it because I wanted to see the city. I was like, I got to go out here for this work trip. I might as well, go sightsee a little bit. And, but the backpack was definitely strapped to my back, and it went everywhere I went. And when they signed Joe Flacco, I was out to dinner with some of the New York Times staff, so I ended up having to write about Joe Flacco at the dinner table, and everyone kind of just got it because that's the gig.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
KB, I know they keep you busy all the time, too. You more of on your mobile, are you a phone guy, or do you just carry the laptop wherever?
Pretty much laptop wherever. Yeah, luckily I was just parked the car in Bloomington yesterday when the Daniel Jones signing happened, so hopped in the classroom, got that done before class started. I did want to throw in a few more of these last-second shots that we were talking about in the previous segment. Certainly from a state finals standpoint, you had Luke Zeller back in the day. I'm waiting for Brendan King to have that in one of our IHSAA clips. Obviously, the Gordon Hayward moment, what I always thought was a great inbounds pass there for Brownsburg. Remember Chris Jenkins in the national title?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Villanova.
I say this because
Is that the Jay Wright bang, right?
Yes. I say this because everyone forgets that Marcus Page made a crazy shot before that.
Yeah,
it's forgotten in history.
That was going to be the game winner.
It was incredible. I remember Charles Barkley was jumping up and down, and that was a crazy game. Yeah.
And then, of course, Bryce Drew in that play, ironically called Pacer. And the great inbounds pass, the great that is, you think about some of these end-of-game moments, and I've kind of, been a little get off my lawn about this before, I hate the fouling in the college games. I thought there was a pretty decent flow. I know you had the long review last night after Haliburton made it, but I thought for the most part, those final few minutes of the Pacers-Bucks was just minimal whistles and just go. A lot of teams, I think, are adopting going back to that Valpo play when they're down 3 because they don't want to get fouled. So you would throw the baseball pass. You do it as kind of a touch pass. The hope is that the team isn't, as on it. They're unable to get the foul that quickly. And, that play was what? 20-something. I mean, hell, is it 30 years ago? Yeah, 36 years ago, whatever that was. 26 years ago, whatever. The Bryce Drew play. So iconic there from a March Madness standpoint.
I'll wrap it up again by pointing out the T-shirt that you decided to wear today from the Hoosier Gym, and it's in honor of that shot last night. Jimmy Chitwood in full release, I'll make it. And that's what Tyrese Haliburton did last night. And I want to go back to something we talked about from the very beginning. The play design was terrific on that last second shot.
Oh, it was fantastic. Shout out to, Coach Jenny Busek, who played flag football growing up, stole some of the ideas and concepts from that, kicked it around in her brain with Sue Bird and tweaked it with, some Pacers assistants and Rick Carlisle. So, that's her play. And I'm glad that Rick Carlisle has given her flowers for that. And obviously it didn't pay off in the conference finals last year, but it paid off last night. So really cool play. And yeah, I wore the shirt partly because of what it says on the back, but also because Shaq was saying it's a Hoosiers play and not giving the Pacers any credit after the game. I don't care. I don't care how simple the play is, how complex it is. Does it work? And it did work, and it was fantastic.
It's funny, too, when you think about that play specifically. It is a little NFL reminiscent of, the pick play elements to it. Pretty much that's what the Pacers did. They kind of ran 3 guys across Haliburton. He kind of wrapped around. All of a sudden, the Bucks are confused, a 3rd and 7 pick play for an offense in the NFL, and it works like that. So what a moment. Regular season-wise, it's got to be pretty special to, I think, qualify to the magnitude that we've shared today. And I certainly think that's what happened last night.
Mark is sharing treats via surrogate already as
Kylan
we speak.
Is passing out some Wendy's Frosties.
Wow.
These
Thin Mint Frosties?
These
I'm
are
not going to complain.
Just absurd right here. Gosh, so much for me working out.
Between Cluster Truck yesterday, but that's good food. Good, nutritious food on Cluster Truck.
Are you saying this is not?
I didn't say it wasn't good. I used the term nutritious. All right, that's going to wrap it up.
You guys know my take on Thin Mints, but
I know,
hey, we're going to try out the Frosty. This isn't a Blizzard, James, but
I'm a Thin Mint hater as well.
You can do no wrong. Thanks for bringing those by. Thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate that. We'll keep an eye on the Big Ten tournament today. Jake Query will be along at noon, JMV at 3. Got Clayton coming up next. Stay with us here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.